What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Survivor Now podcast. We are in for a very exciting episode today. I have been looking forward to this. So we are bringing back a Survivor tradition. We are doing the Rites of Passage. If you guys don't remember what the Rites of Passage was, because it happened so long ago, and I don't remember the last season where they stopped doing it, but basically it's at the end of every Survivor season, what they would do is the final two or final three would go through and look at everybody's torches, or they had something that would like represent everyone who had exited the game, and they would just spend a couple minutes reminiscing of that person and paying their respects. So that's what we're going to do today. Right before we get to the final four in Survivor Australia, Heroes versus Villains, it airs this Sunday on Channel 10. We're going to go back through in order and look at every single player who has been voted out thus far. We're going to look at their games. That's 20 people to look, technically 24, because we are looking at the final four as well. If you watched our cast assessment, this is sort of the counterpart to our cast assessment video, and it's going to be a lot of fun today. But I can't do it alone. So today I am joined by Abraham and Tegwyth, the crew. We are all here, ready to go. We are going to be harsh. We're going to be, I don't know, pleasing. The opposite word of harsh. I don't know. We're going to just be honest and really rank these players, not based off how we feel about them, whether they are our favorites or whether we don't like them as a player or stuff like that. We are going to rank them based off how they played the game and how we thought their season should have ended up. You guys can tell I did not rehearse any of that. So I feel like I did a decent job there. So we are using the tier.
It sounded positive.
Yeah, I'm trying to. So we are using Tier Maker here to do this. And so we have 6 different categories here. So we have winner prediction. Stick around till the very end of the episode, and we will give you guys our official Survivor Now winner prediction, which is going to be tough because the 3 of us are going to have to agree on a name, and we're going to see if we end up being right. Final 4, pretty self-explanatory. These are the people in the final 4. Robbed, which is basically queen robbed, king robbed, someone who should be sitting in the final 2, but if the game just didn't screw them, if they didn't get idled out completely like a Suri, they might be sitting here as a winner today. So that is robbed. Solid gameplay, pretty self-explanatory. That is somebody who played pretty well, and we could definitely see them coming back into the game. Wasn't your game is meant for people who you're not meant for Survivor. All right. You just didn't know what you were doing out here. And then did you even show up? Are the people that we don't even know what to say. Did you do anything? Did you even go swimming? Did you build? Were you working on the shelter? Something like that. So those are the categories. And then we're also going to try to put every single person in order. So at the end of this, you can go right from the top, left to right on each row and see how we think they stack up against each other. Whew, let me get a drink. No, I'm kidding. So Tegwyth, Abraham, how are we doing today before we get this started?
I'm doing
Ladies
great.
First.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm doing awesome. Super excited to get into this. It's going to be fun to kind of think about these people's gameplay in like a larger sense. You know, we always think about what hypothetically could, would, should have happened, or at the beginning of the season, what will happen. And here we actually get to go into it, talk about people's games, going into the final 4 this weekend. So I'm super stoked to kind of not only that, but also see how these final 4 kind of got here while we're kind of talking about everyone's gameplay. It's going to be a fun little wrap up.
You know what? It's electrifying because, you know, we're ending up the Australian season and kicking off the U.S. season. And this is an old favorite. You know, people say, hey, what do you want to bring back? This is one of the things to pay homage to the, you know, to the players that didn't make it to the end or got hurt or didn't get to do what they wanted to do because they just was in the wrong place at the wrong time. So to put this back in the mix, man, Randy, it's going to be fun tonight.
And it's, I mean, pay respects to the fact that whether you like them or hate them, they did take time out of their lives to go out and play this game for our entertainment. And it's going to be cool as well because, Abraham, you and I have spoke to a lot of these players and got their explanations about why they did stuff. And so it's going to be interesting to look back on that. But let's go ahead. We got a lot of people to get through here. And I know we all don't want to be here for 4 hours or anything like that. So let's get right into this. We're going to start off with a tough one. And I feel like by default, she's going to end up in a category here. Let's start with ladies first. We'll start with Tegwyth here on Jackie. I mean, what are we thinking about Jackie here and her very, very short time on the game?
Yeah, brief, very brief. I will say we did see her in an alliance in the beginning, right? She was in an alliance with who was it? Jackie, Anjali, and George.
Yeah.
George.
That was the initial alliance.
So, we know how far George went. So it pains me to have to put her into Did You Even Show Up? Because I honestly think, she made some moves. She had a pretty solid 3 alliance. Did 2 out of those 3 go home in the first episode? Yes. But I think, part of me wants to put her in Wasn't Your Game, but just because we didn't even see her game. It's not her fault. She and George got injured. But I think, unfortunately, we might have to put her in Did You Even Show Up?
Before I go to Abraham here, because this is how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to rotate up on the screen here based off how I see us on the camera. Before I go to Abe, it's interesting you say that because I'm actually thinking, and people are going to be right off the bat, what? Should I even watch the rest of this? This makes no sense. I'm thinking Jackie should go into Wasn't Your Game because she did have a strong alliance. Think about how different it could be. If George, we've seen how good he's done this year with his disciples and with his alliances. He had an alliance day one with Anjali and Jackie. And I know we're going to be talking about Anjali, the very next player. But what I'm saying is I think Jackie could have been like a Jerry type person for George in a sense that she could have been his right-hand guy. And in my opinion, she fits in the Wasn't Your Game perfectly because it wasn't your game. You got hurt on the first challenge. There wasn't much you could do about it. Maybe not go head first, but I think it was kind of hard not to go in head first. So there wasn't really anything she could do. I'm interested to hear what you say, Abraham, because I'm kind of completely in agreement with Tegwyth that, like, I would hate to put her in Did You Even Show Up? She kind of fits that category as well. So, I mean, which category is it here? Is it Wasn't Your Game or Did You Even Show Up?
Well, look here. She's a returnee from a previous season. She played with George. She played with other players. I'm going to say, and here's the reason why. She was robbed because we never want to leave the game on an injury because we never get a chance to show what we can do. And it was unfortunate that she got injured and we just never saw her get a chance to get her stride going. Now, did we see glimpses of her game? Yes. Start an alliance, align yourself with the right people. And I would say on that particular challenge, aligning yourself with George up front, seeing what George has done during the game would have been a good move on her part. So I'm going to say she was robbed because she was injured, and we really never got a chance to see her game develop in this season.
Now, let me say, as devil's advocate to something that I already just said, like, I want to kind of put her in Wasn't Your Game, but playing devil's advocate, if we think about that first episode, Shawnee only wanted to protect George. Shawnee was in with Liz. She was making friends with the people. A lot of people were targeting George. A lot of people think that maybe if George had been at that first tribal council, maybe he would have gone home, whatever. But I honestly think that, Wasn't Your Game. She did have an alliance, but I do also think that alliance wasn't doing very well. Like like I said, Anjali was the first person voted out, right? She was in that alliance. So to play devil's advocate against myself, it wasn't a very, very, now was George in the alliance? Yes, but the only person that Shawnee really cared about was George. And I think, Shawnee's protection kind of saved George for a while. And I think, part of me then, I'm just playing devil's advocate. So let me take off.
We need a devil's advocate. Yeah.
Maybe, making an alliance is one thing. Having a good alliance is another. So that's also an argument for putting her in Did You Even Show Up and not taking into account her injury.
I don't know if you can play devil advocate on yourself.
I can, and I will. I can.
We got to look that up. We're gonna look that one up.
I just said
we didn't get a chance. I just said we just didn't get a chance to see. That's why I got her in robbed. Her injury robbed of what we could have probably seen, and we just never got a chance to see it because I can't put her in was it your game? Because we didn't see enough of her game.
That's fair. Yeah.
So I was like,
I think I'm leaning more to Abraham. You're making a great point about if anyone's robbed, it's Jackie. She was robbed from the entire season because of an injury. But I think we got to go. If I'm the deciding vote here, I think we got to go. Did you even show up?
Well, we get 4 people, so we get a split vote.
Split go into
but then I'll play an idol.
Yeah, she's idling immediately.
My individual immunity idol.
I think I'm just going to throw this out there. We're making these rules up as we go. This is a new tradition for Survivor Now. I'm going to put this out there. I'm going to give each of us one idol. Okay.
Ooh.
This is fun. So if you disagree and like say Tegwyth and I say, did you even show up, Jackie? And Abraham's like, no, she has to go and robbed. You can use your idol and take the vote for yourself.
I love it.
Yeah, I think it makes
the golden buzzer in America's Got Talent.
Yes, but we are doing the golden idol. We should just call it that. So each of us have a golden idol. Now we can discuss if there's a bunch of people in robbed, we can discuss where she goes in that category. But that's if you really feel strongly about something, you can use it. But you get one. Everyone cool with that?
I think that's great.
All right, moving on to the first person voted out of the game. Anjali, what an amazing soul. I remember it. So it's my turn to start off for this one. I remember speaking with her. She had such a positive attitude. And oh my gosh, I feel like she would have been super entertaining. And if I remember correctly, the reason she got voted off was
she asked to be.
Say, did she ask to be? I thought people just didn't trust her, I think is why she got voted off.
It was doing the jury. I mean, I'm not doing the jury. It's doing tribal council. She said some things, and it was like, oh, well, we'll just go ahead and vote you out then. She was like, let's vote. Oh, that was the tribal council where they had a decision of not voting or voting, and she was like, no, let's vote, and they voted out.
Yeah, and she was the one who was pushing it, and she said in her exit interview, she was the only one who was pushing it. Oh my gosh. Okay. Thank you for reminding me. In my, now that I remember that was probably up there for the stupidest Survivor move of all time. It's got to be one of them to me because you have a chance. You just lost someone due to injury. George was still in the hospital, so you didn't know if he was going to come back in the game or not. There was absolutely no reason to come back or to vote someone off that night. There was none. You're talking about a numbers game, and she's just like, well, we're the villains, so we gotta
gotta vote somebody out.
It's so okay. For that reason, Abraham, you're next taking this, talking about Anjali here. I gotta say, did you even show up? She's got to be down there for that move in general.
I think she came in wanting to play a strong game, and she just tribal council. She just talked herself into a whole different other game. I got to put it in. Wasn't your game. Because the game that she was playing wasn't the game that everybody else was playing at that time. And I was like, you want another day in Survivor. You want another day. And there's a chance where you didn't have to vote. She's like, no, let's vote. We came here to play. Well, it's a little early in the game to play that hard. So I'm going to put her in, wasn't your game. She just was playing a different type of game.
Tegwyth is the deciding vote. She has heard our case for Anjali.
I didn't even need to hear either of your cases. I knew what I was going to do going into this. No one was going to change my mind. The fact that she voted herself out, like that is what happened. You didn't have to vote anybody out. You yourself were like, there is confidence, and then there's the confidence of we don't have to vote somebody out of our tribe, but we should do it anyway. And the fact that she was the one that was voted out, it's absolutely, did you even show up? It's like
oh, Abraham, over 2, buddy.
She just didn't. It was and I think she goes below Jackie. I think.
Oh
yeah. I think there's no, and you can, have the best intentions in all of the land, and you can, have all of that, but the fact that the reason that you got voted, no one had to have been voted out. Nobody wanted to vote, and you yourself was like, you know what, we got to vote, we got to do this, and I think that just is not a fun look.
And they did it.
Abraham, do you agree with that? Is Anjali going to currently be in the running for the wooden spoon, which in sports terms is the worst the worst player of the season. Is Anjali below Jackie or is she above Jackie?
I'm going to put her below Jackie because Jackie just didn't have a chance. Anjali had a chance to kind of maneuver and play her game. She just was unaware of what the rest of the tribe was doing that day, and they got her.
Well, let's see if anyone could take that wooden spoon off Jackie. It's going to be tough the farther in the game we go. Next up, we have Michael. And Abraham, you have the right to start us off with Michael here.
You know what? I thought Michael was going to do a lot better. But as we see, his gameplay was let's go destructive and make big moves. And here's the thing about it. For all y'all future Survivor players, there's a time and a place for everything. And when you got a lot of people in the game of Survivor, you just want to kind of weed your way through and let the like a little block of people weed people out. Where Michael was like, nope, I'm running the show. I'm going to do this right here. He's definitely wasn't your game. Michael was playing a different game, and it wasn't his game. He showed up because he was making moves and he was trying to get people voted out and he was doing everything, but it just wasn't his game. No.
I think I'm going to have to, I don't know. So here's the thing with Michael. Yeah.
Playing devil's advocate.
I have to think about this all the way through because I don't think, I think he had some good strategy. And if I remember correctly, he was going after George and that was his target. And I think anyone who was going after George makes the right decision, right? We have hindsight is 2020. We can see what has happened. And obviously going after George would have been the right move for pretty much everybody, except for the 3 other people in the final 4, right? Because then somebody else could have been in the final 4 instead of George. So I do think having the foresight of going for George was the right call. Now, I think there's also the fact of, you kind of see, you need to kind of gauge where the rest of the tribe is going. Obviously, I think he had Simon and a couple other people that agreed with him. But then, Shawnee was still protecting George and Shawnee was still kind of leading the charge to kind of keep the returnees in. And so I feel like there is, I don't think that he had some solid ideas, some solid gameplay. I do not think he was executed properly, obviously, because he was the 3rd person voted out. So I think I am actually going to have to, after all of those words, agree with you, Abraham. I'm going to put him in wasn't your game.
We're going to be, my vote doesn't even matter, but we're going to be 3 for 3 here. I think wasn't your game was good because I actually liked Michael's and I told him this in the interview. I liked his thought. Get out the big player. Why are we leaving George in the game? He kept saying, if you leave George in the game, he's going to get he's going to get in an alliance and he's going to go all the way to the end. George is in the final 4. So Michael was right all along when he's like, we have to take this guy out now. And the cards just didn't fall right for him. He didn't have the support and the backup that he needed. So I was almost thinking solid gameplay until I talked myself out of it. And then I was like, well, as a Survivor fan, you should know not to go right after the big dogs he was playing too hard at the very beginning, which is fine because that's what super fans usually do. That's probably what I would do is I would play way too hard right off the bat because I would just be eager to get going. But I think we are all in agreement that Michael goes and wasn't your game. All right, next up, 3rd person voted out, 4th person out of the game. Tegwyth started us off with Mimi. I do remember one instinct moment from Mimi this season, but I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
So I'm not going to lie. And I mean this, and I don't blame her at all. I don't really remember much about Mimi. That's not her fault. That is all on the edit, in my opinion. Obviously her gameplay and didn't make it so that they really needed to show a lot of her. But there isn't much that I remember about Mimi. And so because of no fault of her own and just me not having, honestly, I don't know, not having the best memory, I think I might have to put her in Did You Even Show Up? Who was she gunning after? She was going after, what was the thing that you remember?
She wasn't gunning after anybody. She was basically going with the vote, but she went to tribal council and said probably 5 words too many, and the vote changed at tribal council to vote her out.
The one thing that I remember, which isn't even who she was gunning after, she had an incident where the villains got to go to the heroes' camp, and George wanted to destroy the shelter. And Mimi was the loudest person in speaking up and saying, this is just not right. We should not be doing this. And George was like, what do you mean we shouldn't be doing this? We're villains. So she had, there was a couple instances where she stood up for herself. And I believe it happened in Tribal too, where she started to stand up for herself. And it pretty much got her, she pretty much talked herself out of the game based off she wasn't taking anybody's shit. And she would just, she would tell you how it is. In my opinion, Tegwyth, I do agree with you, unfortunately, because of the edit mixed with she didn't really make any moves. It's so weird because with Michael, he tried making a move, got voted off, and we're like, you shouldn't have tried making a move. But with Mimi, we're like, well, you should have tried making a move or something because she didn't really do much. I mean this with all love because I love Mimi. She's a huge supporter of the show. I think looking back on this season, you will have to look at the cast list to remember that Mimi was even on this season. I think for a lot of
no fault of her, like
not
Michael
her fault
is
at all.
here because of he got a lot of confessionals. He, I mean, only being in what was it, 2 or 3 episodes, he got a lot more confessionals, and so I don't. It stinks just that the fact that she just didn't get a lot of screen time.
Abraham, round us out here for Mimi, man.
Yeah, I mean, because I remember specifically for the change of vote at Tribal Council, a little bit of camp life, but that's the thing about editing. Sometimes you get a chance to meet and develop something for the people that's on the island, and other times you're like, who? Because it's a couple of players from this season. We didn't see them until week 3 or 4 on the edits. Up until then, we didn't know who they were. So it's unfortunate. I think she would have had a better gameplay on a different season. I don't think she was a villain. So we're going to have to put her in Did You Show Up? But Mimi is the best.
She leads in that category, though. I feel like if there was one in between the two, I feel like she would be in that one. But yeah, she definitely leads in the category. And I am blaming my decision on the edit.
So Mimi slots in at second place so far behind Michael, who is currently the best player from the season. But it's still early on here. Okay. All right. Let me start off here with Rogue. Wait, why do I have to start off with this one? So anyways, we all know what Rogue will be remembered for this season. It was her comments that she made to a few of her fellow castaways. If I'm getting specific, really the comment that she made to Nina is what she's going to be remembered for. I feel like, and I know you guys said at the time that Anjali, no one's going to pass her for the wooden spoon for this season, but I believe that Rogue has to be last because I mean, the stuff that she was saying, she had no social game to the point where the heroes were like, we have to throw a challenge to get this girl out. If they are throwing a challenge to get you out of the game, you are not playing the game. So I have to, in my opinion, she should go at the very bottom of Did You Even Show Up? Abraham, do you agree?
You know what? We didn't get a title for our season, and nor has any other season in the 40s got a title. Y'all got a title called Heroes and Villains. They put you on the tribe they call Heroes. They didn't put you there so you could basically talk about everybody's qualification to be a hero to your standards. And she just went through the tribe. I mean,
nobody's a hero. Nobody here's a hero.
And I was like, what? There's no team in that. And here's the thing about it is the heroes were doing outstanding. I mean, they were destroying the villains, and you got Rogue in there. It's like, well, none of y'all are really heroes. The things he said that the edit allowed us to see is one. I'm pretty sure if you said that once, you said it to some other folks about other things. And she just was a person that when you go through the process to be selected, they probably should have looked twice. They probably should have checked something because she definitely was not a credit to the show. If anything, at that point when that happened, that was just a stain on the show. So no, I wish we had another category that says trash.
Just
trash.
Down below the Did You Even Show Up?
Trash.
Down here. All right, Tegwyth, wrap us up. I saw you shaking your head the entire time.
I'm gonna use my golden. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah,
She was robbed.
I quit.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Like there's no world in which like okay, let me just also say she clearly didn't. I feel like she's definitely not a Survivor fan. Like you go out there and you have to have a social game, and somebody who is going out and attacking people left, right, and center, calling people idiots, like doing all of these things, like I don't understand, like where in you just don't, you didn't do your research. And there's nothing that bugs me more in terms of Survivor than somebody who doesn't do their research. You know, you're going to go on a show, like learn a little bit about the show, but also like, how dare you? Like, how dare you?
When there's super fans dying to get on. And the thing is too, I'm pretty convinced she only went on the show to advertise her new book, because like
she has a book.
Yeah, it came out, like, she announced it once she got eliminated. Like, she went private on Instagram. And then the moment she got voted out, she unlocked her Instagram and started posting about her new book. No. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure she went on for publicity.
That is horrible. That is.
And you could have got the same, you could have used that as a platform to get help toward her cause, because she has a worthy cause, but she's a trash ass person. So
yeah, and there's no like, I can't even like have a good thought about Rogue on this show, because I just can't process it. I just can't believe she was on this show. It's like wild to me.
So she takes I gotta think of a different name, Survivor themed, than Wooden Spoon. Maybe she's eating the wooden rice at the very bottom. Yeah. She is bottom of the barrel for this season. Next up, we have someone who is way better than the aforementioned Rogue, and
really
that is
talk about her. Actually,
what'd you say?
I'm actually really excited to talk about Sarah.
Oh yeah, I believe I can't. I've already lost count. Oh, it's Abraham's turn to start us off here for Sarah. Oh, what are we thinking about Sarah's season? Like, how did she do this year?
You know what? It's the early part of the game and then it's late part of the game. I'm gonna go ahead and say Sarah played a solid game. And here's the thing: she comes from an athletic background and she comes from a real social background. And I think she just had a couple of more things went in her favor. And it came down to they just kind of mistrusted her at the wrong time. And she couldn't figure out what side she wanted to be on, but she played the game. And had it fell in her favor, she would have went far in the game. So up until that point of getting voted out, she had a solid game. And I like the fact that she played rugby. And I like the fact that she's a beauty queen, so she can get dirty. And she played. And she had a good time. Great person doing the interview.
Yeah, I totally agree. I would also go with solid gameplay. My personal reason is because I think, again, she was going after George. Like that was her goal. And I'm pretty sure that's what got her voted out. Again, I could be misremembering. And so I think she had some good connections, but they just really wanted to protect their alliance, you know what I mean? And so I think she did a pretty good job. I think she, I was kind of shocked when she was voted out. I definitely thought she was going to be going a little bit further. Not after watching the episode, but like prior to that, I really thought she was going to go further. And I really think that she laid some solid groundwork and some, I don't know. I like Sarah a lot. So I would definitely go with solid gameplay.
So she got caught up in that trying to play both sides. That's
what I was going to say.
That's what she was doing.
I'm going to get overruled here because there's already 2 votes for solid gameplay. So that's where Sarah's going to end up going here. I was leaning more towards wasn't your game, just because I felt like it just didn't work out for her. Her gameplay was all right, but it just didn't work out for her. But then if I'm thinking about why it could have been solid gameplay, she actually played it really well. She had both sides fooled. She was basically the deciding vote for Simon and his crew to get George out of the game. I believe George was the target at the time. Yeah. But then George was able to talk to everyone and say that there's something going on with Sarah. Like, she's playing both sides. You can tell it. And like Simon and that group didn't even end up going with Sarah. And I remember sitting there and thinking it was super stupid because she said something at tribal council where she was basically Jonathan, well, in a good way, Jonathan asked where, is it too early? Something like, is it too early for alliances to be formed? Do you have an alliance? And she said, or something like, where's your vote going tonight? And she said, my vote is going to build trust. I want to prove to my group that they can trust me. And she went with Simon's group, and I don't know why, but Simon and his group just didn't go along with it. If they did, George would have went home that night because Sarah did go along with the plan. And I remember screaming at my TV, just being like, you had it. You had the plan, and for no reason, you flipped on your new alliance member. So George was able to plant the seed to the entire tribe that Sarah was playing both sides when she really wasn't. In reality, she was outright flipping to Simon's alliance.
Jonathan has been the bus driver of this season. He should have been like the 25th player, because them questions he be asking, they set you up for the bus to run you over.
Very true.
You should just say, I don't want to answer. I plead the fifth. Everybody that's answered his question got voted out. If you go back and look at her, they got voted out.
So Sarah takes over as our top player of the season thus far. Yes, I am going to say that every time someone takes over. So it's going to be fun to see who we end up thinking is the best player. So, next up, Tegwyth, you get to start us off with Frasier. And this is a really interesting one on where Frasier goes here, because you do talk about someone who was just, what's the word I'm looking for? He was just a casualty to something that he had nothing to do with.
I got a word.
Casualties. I know what Abraham's going to do. Here's the thing about Frasier. So he had a solid, he was really good friends with, who was it? Jordy? Him and Frasier were super, super close. And I think an alliance like that is super important. As we see, Jordy's only voted out, three tribals?
Three tribals later, yeah.
So, I think, having Frasier in the fray, with that solid alliance, I think was super important. Now, obviously, Frasier would not have been the person voted out here. It would have been Simon, but the game stepped in and it changed, right? The game, they did that individual immunity. Everything blew up in everybody's face. And so part of me wants to go robbed, because I do think he would have been fine. But the other part of me was like, you know what? I didn't really see much of his other gameplay. He had one solid alliance, right? And he was like friendly with other people, but 3 people in his tribe were willing to just vote him out at this tribal, even though, and no idols needed to have been played. It was still, he had the majority. And so of the votes. So part of me really wants to go robbed. But I don't know that his gameplay was that good.
It's tough.
You know what I mean? Where I actually do think he was robbed, literally robbed, because I think that he would not have been voted out of this he would not have been voted out here if the twist hadn't come into play. But I don't think his gameplay was much better than some other people that I'm going to put in solid gameplay. You know what I mean? Like, I'm thinking like who am I going to put in solid gameplay? I can't even think, but I don't know. This is a very, very difficult one for me. And I wish there was one in between, like robbed and solid gameplay. But I think I'm gonna have to go solid gameplay. But I know that he literally was robbed. But in terms of our tier ranking system, I think he's in the middle for me, and I don't think he's higher.
So I'm thinking robbed is definitely one that you're like, he was robbed. But in terms of robbed, I think of people who they would have won the $500,000. I don't think Frasier had the resume or was making the moves that it takes for him to be in the robbed category. I'm actually going wasn't your game for everything you just said. It wasn't his game. He wasn't playing that strong. Yes, he was in an alliance. He had a good friendship with Jordy. So you can't knock him that much. He was doing what he needed to do, so I could see the solid gameplay argument. But in terms of actually taking the lead, and who knows, maybe Frasier's plan was to kind of sit back and wait until the merge. That could have been his game. But from what I saw and what we saw as viewers, he was just kind of riding that alliance. And I mean, yeah, he got blindsided. He got screwed. But at the same time, if he made those connections with George and people, he wouldn't have been the casualty, which obviously he didn't. So they were just like, let's just get Frasier out. Who cares? So that's why I'm leaning more towards on that solid gameplay. Wasn't your game border? He's either above. Hey, peace.
I'm being real. Sorry.
No, you're good. He was either wasn't your game in front of Michael or solid gameplay behind Sarah, in my opinion. Abraham, looks like you're the deciding factor here.
So we're sitting at wasn't your game and robbed?
It wasn't your game and solid gameplay.
Solid gameplay.
Unless you feel he should be in robbed.
No, I'm gonna go with Tegwyth on solid gameplay. And here's the thing about it is we're down. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 folks out. So he's 8. And you got to look at that and say, okay, where am I at the game? I need an alliance. How much work do I want to do on the alliance to start chopping people down? Well, I'm gonna get behind a Jordy because he's a big player, big threat. And I'm just gonna kind of sit back and kind of wait. Because really, you don't really have to do a lot but have a solid alliance right there. You still got to mastermind, you still got to strategize, but you got to kind of subtly push your agenda, which he was doing. When he got voted out, he knew he was blindsided because he was like, hey, wait a minute, there's a challenge before. You can win immunity. Simon gets immunity. And then remember now, George blew up their whole thing because he was like, hey, Jordy, you told me everything. So now the alliance that he had a lot of solidarity with is now fractured. And if you go down and look at it, a lot of the villains by this time have been voted off. So their tribe is already smaller. So you're trying to navigate and stay on and not make any waves. So I think he had a solid gameplay. He just wrong place, wrong time. That tribal council is crucial.
He definitely, we should have a screwed category because that
he got screwed.
Yeah, he definitely did. But so we're putting him in solid gameplay behind Sarah though, right? We're all in agreement with that. Yeah. So Frasier right behind Sarah for solid gameplay. Next up, I get to start us off talking about my winner pick. Rob's queen. She should have won. No. I loved Shawnee. But at the same time, and I love Shawnee, I don't love Shawnee in the game because I felt like she had a very weak game. She was very close to Jerry, and we saw how emotionally into that relationship she was when Jerry got sent to the other side, and she just felt so bad about it. And she said, this hurt Jerry. And then when Jerry returned, he would sit in his chair, and she was right beside him every single time. She wasn't willing to really make connections with anyone else, even though Nina did say in her exit interview she even had somewhat a decent relationship with Shawnee. I just felt like Shawnee let her relationship with Jerry get in the way of her actually playing the game. And she had that relationship because she spoke about how she was raised by her grandfather who passed away. So in a sense, Jerry was that grandfather figure for her. And she just kind of went full granddaughter mode. And she just wanted to be with grandpa and sit on the beach and enjoy the time that they had. And then you could even argue that she talked herself out of the game in a sense at her tribal council. So as much as I loved her and she was my winner pick, and again, the Randy curse hit and she went out immediately. I think Shawnee has to go. And did you even show up? I just don't think she did much in this game.
Is it me or Tegwyth?
It's you, Abraham.
I'm a differ. Here's the thing. That early in the game, she felt really aligned with people because what happens is you're around somebody 24/7, and she felt really aligned, and she felt like the tribe had done Jerry wrong by basically sacrificing him to send him over to the other tribe. So I think that's where her game got fractured at, and she just couldn't let that part of it go. And to me, it just wasn't her game. She came in there and she just didn't develop what needed to be developed. I don't think I think she showed up, and I think she was playing the first half. But I think Jerry being sent over there kind of put her on a different path, and she thought she was aligned with somebody. But again, she was at tribal, and she had a couple of choice things to say, and they was like, "Okay, we're gonna vote you out."
Couldn't shut her mouth. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Yeah,
if I'm wrong, I mean, remind me. I remember that happening slightly differently. I remember what happened was Paige and Charney were in the thing.
Oh, on the blocks,
and Paige couldn't let go of the fact
Yes.
that she thought that Shawnee dropped the block.
I
And
forgot
then
about this.
Benjamin used that to his advantage to get Shawnee out, and Benjamin even played the idol for himself. So I actually think that she played slightly of a better game than Randy, than you're saying, because yes, she couldn't get over Jerry. That I get, but that was also somebody that she was very aligned with, and so was Jerry. And honestly, I think Shawnee getting voted out was the best thing to happen to Jerry's game. But I think that it's just for her, I think it wasn't her game, because I think that she wouldn't have been voted out had Benjamin not put in the work to kind of put the seed in everyone's ear. Oh, Shawnee dropped the block and blah, 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 and then turned Paige against Shawnee. I mean, Paige was already against Shawnee, but kind of get everybody else to be against Shawnee too. And then he obviously played his idol. I don't think he needed to play his idol. I can't remember if he needed to or not.
I don't think so, no.
But he did it to show, like, hey, I'm going to do this anyway, whatever that
he need to play. No, I thought he did get some votes.
Yeah, I think he got some, but I think, so I just think that, I think it wasn't your game. And I actually think that she's wasn't your game above Michael, because I think, like, you know, she did make it further into the game. I think because she was with the heroes, right? Not on the villains tribe, but you know, I think that the reason why she went out was some really good gameplay on somebody else's part, and not, I think she was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, personally.
So, Abraham, do you agree with that? Because I was overruled here. And in Tegwyth, you made an excellent point that I totally forgot about that. She did get screwed in that sense because she didn't drop on purpose, but Paige was just convinced for whatever reason that she dropped on purpose. So, Abraham, you would say she's above Michael?
Yeah. And think about it, because one, she lasted longer. Two, she was playing the game, but that particular transaction, and I don't know why Paige went so, because as a viewer, we could see that she didn't drop the box, but having somebody else use that against them and to drive a wedge, they were playing because she was a threat. Let's get her out. She's a threat.
Yeah.
So anytime you fall into the threat category, I'm gonna give you credit.
I'm starting to see a little pattern here. We're building a tree right here. So either Liz,
my gosh, that's so funny.
Yeah, we're building a little tree here. Well, unfortunately, I was already looking at who could go there, and no one else can, because in terms of what trees are on that side, it'd either be Liz
or
Jerry. Or Liz or Jerry, and they're obviously in the final four.
Yeah.
So what a shame. But yes, so Charney goes into wasn't your game right before Michael. All right, but you bring up Paige and how she kept blaming Shawnee for dropping. She would drop next, and this is at this point in the game, and for the next five people we talk about, or sorry, the next four we talk about, this is when the tribe swap happened. So Paige was the first person out of the new Heroes tribe with George, Shawnee. I don't remember everyone, but that's when George and Shawnee went over there, or George and Shawnee, excuse me. So Abraham, you're up first for Paige. Where do we think Paige fits in this tier here?
I think Paige went off the rails when she wanted to be the focal point of the tribe, that she needed to take over and boss everybody in the tribe, tell them what to do. And you don't want a spotlight, especially in a tribe swap. You kind of just want to ease in there and see the lay of the land. And there were some players that remembered what she had done. And we still got the thing where you got a player that goes over to, Jerry goes over to the villains tribe, and she volunteered to go. But they was like, no, we want to keep you. So now you become a threat, because why you going to let me go? So when he came back, she put the target on her own back. So I'm going to put her there. It just wasn't your game.
Yeah, I mean, she was trying to, she fell victim again to, she was trying to get George out of the game. She was trying, she was targeting George. George found that out, and he said, okay, as we've seen all season now, if you say George's name, keep the King George's name out your mother and mouth.
Yep.
And so that's how it's been all season. It's
Was this the one with the idol? Was this the play with the idol? It was, right?
They
Didn't Shawnee play an idol for
yes,
George?
for George, yes.
And
I knew
didn't-
something happened.
And Paige had the numbers, right? Paige had the numbers on George. It's just
He would have went home if
Would have
Shawnee
gone
did not
home,
play.
yeah.
Yeah.
Shawnee saved him.
For that reason, Tegwyth, I think you just talked me into wasn't your game, because I was about to say, did you even show up? Because I don't know if she really did anything to make a statement this season. But now I'm kind of leaning towards Paige going, I would argue above Shawnee and wasn't your game.
I think I would agree with you, mainly because of how much, like, she did have a good social game on the Heroes tribe. Like, the Heroes didn't want her to go because they were worried they would lose her, right? So, you know, I feel like that's a good indicator. They were all willing to, even if she did put a target on her own back from the villains, like the villain, like, because she was kind of taking the taking control. I think I would agree over Charney. It wasn't your game. The tree is now broken, though.
That's right. Yeah, can we? I don't know if I can do that just because I want the tree into no, that. I mean, we want to keep the tree. Yeah, it was kind of funny.
So now we got to find somebody else to put in. Did you even show up at the front? Who's it going to be?
Yeah,
George goes in. Did you even show up?
Did you even show up, George? Well, Tegwyth, it's your turn now. Let's talk about someone who did show up and another person who broke the hearts of millions when they got voted out. Let's talk about Jordy. And I'm trying, like, my memory might be worse than yours. I'm trying to think of how Jordy went out of the game.
Trust in George.
I remember. He had an idol in his pocket, and Liz had an idol too. And all
it's
they had
ingrained into my brain. It's
they had two idols, and I remember he was like, I think we can.
He played it too smart. He played it too smart.
Because who was he trying to convince?
He talked to Nina and Haley, and he
threatened them. Yeah.
And he said, "Look, we both have idols. We both have idols. So so we're safe. So who of you people you're gonna send home?" And they were like, "Not David." And then they threw out Sam's name. And then Nina, I'm pretty sure it was Nina, was like, I don't think he's actually going to play this idol. I don't think he's going to do it. So they then threw some votes on Jordy still, and it was Jordy who went home.
Oh, but I like Jordy too.
And wasn't it a tie vote? It was a tie vote. I do remember that.
Mm-hmm.
It was a tie, and then they re-voted and got Jordy out.
Tie between Jordy and Sam, I think.
Yeah, because that's when Sam started being like, why am I the scapegoat here? That was tough. He had an idol. He had not one idol, two idols, because Liz had one as well. And that was their chance to kind of flip the whole tribe dynamic on its head.
Yeah.
Where are you putting them, Tegwyth?
Well,
Where's your vote
here's
going?
the thing. Let me talk a little bit about Jordy's game. So I think Jordy is such an amazing Survivor player for many reasons. First things first, I love that he approaches the game unlike how I would approach it. He approaches it as a game, and he takes everything in jest, and he is just such a jovial person to have on your television screen that I think he makes it a fun season, whatever season he is on. I think he's a joy to have on the screen. I also think a lot of the times he has very interesting gameplay. I think he, is able to align with the right people. He tries to backstab when he needs to backstab. He would have been the integral part into getting Simon out when that whole thing happened. You know what I mean? So there were some things. He laid the groundwork, right? Then there was the swap. Obviously, tribes were swapped. And then he played it too smart. Then he played it like how, you feel like you're on top of the world and you forget that you left your water back at the car, and now you have to, you're thirsty and you go back. That's not a very good analogy. I just really feel like he just played himself, right? And this is very hard for me because I think if Jordy makes it further into the game, I think he could potentially win the game. I think that he's really good at making connections. He's just, people like to be around him. And he is no stranger to some good strategy, in my opinion. And so part of me wants to put him in robbed, because I do think that there is a world in which he could win the game. Now, do I think he was actually robbed? No, I think he made a dumb decision that got him out of the game, right? So it's hard for me to put him in robbed, because I don't actually literally think he was robbed, but he is one of the few people. He's the only person so far that I could see go to the end and win. So for that reason, I'm going to put him at the very top of solid gameplay, like the very tippity top of solid gameplay.
We're in agreement. I mean, we all love Jordy here, and he is such a character, and I know he's going to be back out there someday. Like, I could see him being an Australian Survivor player that plays like 5 or 6 times, because he's so fun to watch and so entertaining. And I remember when he went out, I was so heartbroken, so shocked. And I was just thinking instantly, you're telling me we're not going to have this guy on the jury? This guy's done. Like, he's a pre-merge boot. It just
only returnee pre-merge boot too.
It just didn't sound right. And I really think if he got back with George, because at this point they're on opposite tribes. Oh, I think that could have been a very deadly combination. I don't know if George would have got back with him after, when George just threw Jordy's name out there, or let alone whether Jordy would have got with him. But I thought if that duo stuck together, they could have been super deadly. But I mean, he played a great game. He was able to get Shawnee's idol off of her at a challenge, which is insanely tough to do. So I do give him props for that. And I do feel like he kind of had a hand with every alliance until that tribal council where George shut Simon up. And Jordy was just a wrong place, wrong time. And he was a casualty in that tribal council as well. So I agree with you, Tegwyth. I would put him at the very top of solid gameplay. He would be literally tapping on the door to robbed.
Mm-hmm.
I wish we had another category called blow your own game up.
Yeah.
Because he just, because I look at him as the Joker and I look at him as Jordy. If you go back and look at Blood versus Water, you're going to see the Joker. And that player is a little different from Jordy, the soon-to-be father. And
he's had the kid. He's
congratulations
a father now. Yeah.
Congratulations. Welcome to the club.
Well, he didn't have the kid, but you get what I'm saying.
Pay homage to your wife, the girlfriend. Yeah. We saw him play. We saw almost 2 different players, but a player in both sides, and his gameplay. But again, George is the instrument of his destruction, because when he said, "Oh yeah, Jordy told me everything you want to do, Simon." I was like, "Oh, you gone." The tribe swap, because he went with Simon, kind of put him at the bottom, and then Frasier being voted out, it kind of just made it a little harder for him to be able to maneuver. But his last blow up move was he was almost telling them, y'all got to vote this way. If you don't vote this way, we're going to basically vote for you. And not playing your idol and going home with it is the ultimate blow up. So, but he had a solid gameplay. That's why he got some solid gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
So you are full agreement that he goes in solid gameplay. So solid Jordy, as he should so far in terms of pre-merge boots, he's the first returning that we've talked about. And I do think he carried aspects from his last game. And I think he learned a little bit from his last game and carried it here. He ran out of numbers. He got caught up in some tricky situations that doomed his game for him. But he becomes the best player thus far. What are we now? We are like 7. We're 10 players in, and he is the best player of the season based off where we are at the moment. I kept getting tongue-tied there, so it happens. Next up, we're going to talk about someone who brought the energy in our exit interview, and that is Mr. Benji. Benjamin Law. He had that incredible tribal council that got overshadowed by George's tribal council. If George's masterclass didn't happen the night before, we would be talking about Benji possibly having the best tribal council of the season so far. So, I just thought he could never get his footing in the game. don't know why I'm losing my voice already. I'm getting hyped for this. You see how hyped I am. He never got his footing in the game. I never thought he had a solid alliance. He had that incredible moment, and it was so smart to do at the challenge where they had to, it was like it was a word challenge. You had to climb up and then drop the blocks
sign
in.
languages.
Exactly. And he told Paige to sign to him. And that was brilliant. And that was an excellent thing to do. I want to see Benjamin play again so bad because he is such a smart player. And I do think he's built to play Survivor. The problem is no one trusted him from the get-go. And I think it's because they knew that he was going to be a smart player and he would know which moves to make. I think I want to put Benjamin in solid gameplay because based off the cards that he was dealt, he did a pretty fabulous job making it as far as he did because, like I said, no one ever trusted him. And he did have that tribal council where he was able to turn it on its head to save himself. He did find an idol. I mean, anyone who finds an idol in the game is doing something right. So I want to put him in solid gameplay, but I want to hear your guys' opinion. I might not hear it completely because once Abraham takes over here, I'm going to run and get some more water, and hopefully that helps out with my voice here. But I'll get the rundown when I get back. I'm kind of thinking he goes just before Sarah, in my opinion. So Abraham, take it away. I'll be right back. I got to get some water.
I'm going with robbed. He was robbed. He was robbed. He just couldn't. He played the most in the amount of time he had. I mean, he played his idol. He manipulated at tribal council. He got other people voted out. He just could never get off of, we just don't trust you. I mean, they just, and the ringleader of that was Jerry. Jerry was the ringleader of, I just don't trust him. Now, making a fake idol early on in the season probably didn't do him any favors, but he was masterful in playing the game in a short amount of time and saying, hey, I got to do what I got to do.
Mm-hmm.
I heard most of that. You said robbed, and I totally forgot the fact that he made that fake idol as well.
I mean, he played a lot of, he packed a lot of gameplay that we could see from his skills of what he could do if he had more time in the game.
Yeah. I think that's a very good point, Abraham. I'm actually going to agree with Randy though, only because I think that, I think that there were some mistakes that he made. I'm not saying, obviously no one ever plays a perfect game, right? There will be mistakes that everyone always makes always. But I think the mistakes led to his downfall. And I think that he did play. I think he's out of the returnees, out of the newbies that went home
he played
pre-merge, I think he had the best newbie game, obviously, other than the 3 that are still in the game. I would say maybe even better than David. Like he had a very solid game. I don't think that he was robbed though, because I do think that, like, I don't know. I think I'm going to go, I don't have really a reasoning. I just think he had a solid gameplay, but I think just after Jordy, but before Sarah, yeah.
Oh, Abraham, are you going to use your golden idol?
No, but I would. The reason why I would put him before Jordy is because he played his idol, and he played it correctly, and he convinced the jury to vote for somebody else.
That's enough.
I'm fine to put him before Jordy.
Are we going to put him before Jordy?
I'm fine to do it.
We're going to get hate in the comments, but yes. We're putting Ben. I'm okay with that. Putting Ben before Jordy. Yeah, if you disagree with any of this, let us know in the comments. And also let us know how we can improve it. I'll say this again at the end. For next time we do the Rites of Passage, because we want this to become a tradition. So we're looking to do this for season 44 as well. Next up, go ahead and start us off on Stevie, Abraham. Stevie was an enigma.
Stevie was just a good guy. I mean, he had so many things that he would do, but Stevie would run you crazy too. Now, you don't know exactly which way he's gonna vote, but he's gonna stay with his alliance because he pretty much stuck with the alliance all the way through. And he became the sacrificial vote. He really just but I think George was the vote that manipulated him into playing a certain way. because he basically railroaded Simon, and Simon didn't save him, and he ended up not getting voted out. So I don't know if I want to put solid gameplay or just wasn't your game. It just wasn't his game. I gotta go. It wasn't his game. It just was too much other stuff going on, and they kind of put him in the middle, and he kind of stayed there, and really didn't make any moves or anything. I think if it was a different game, different tribe, or back on his last time, he was. It just wasn't his game.
I'm going to agree with that. I think it wasn't his game. I think he is at the top of the wasn't his game group. Mainly, I'm saying this because, I think they're not just going to let anyone be a sacrificial lamb in the way that he was. I think you have to feel okay with somebody being voted out in that way. He was a compromise, a very weird compromise that I still don't understand, but a compromise nonetheless. And I think that is very telling. And I think that he had some good gameplay. I think he was there for a lot of it, but I think this season it just wasn't his game. But I will put him in front of Paige at the wasn't your game.
Who did he get sacrificed for again? I remember how it went down, but who was George not
for Matt and for
Flick?
Flick, yeah.
Flick.
Yeah.
So yeah, I still don't understand that move either. But more on George's half. Like,
no, I don't really understand it for. I
Right.
don't understand it for the two for Liz and Shawnee. I don't know. I don't understand it at all. Let me just say.
But I don't understand on George's side because I don't know why Maddie. Like, I understand for Shawnee and Liz because like that's their girls. Like they wanted to keep a girl in the game to keep the girls' numbers up. I get that. And George should as well. And I understand why he might be against that. But whereas Maddie and oh my gosh, Maddie and Stevie, where Maddie and Stevie, that was like a like for like switch. You're bringing in Maddie, who you've known for what, 3 days or probably a little bit longer at this point, 8 days or something like that. And you're getting rid of Stevie, who is like indebted to you. In a sense. And I didn't understand that for George because like you have your alliance member in Stevie and you're just basically cutting ties with him and it obviously worked out. So kudos George, but like you're cutting ties with him for Maddie, who could have easily went back with the heroes.
Yeah.
So that's why it didn't really make sense.
I think it didn't make sense for anybody. I'm not going to lie.
No.
I want to put Stevie at the top of Did You Even Show Up?
Whoa.
I ain't say all that now. What was that?
How do I say this in a nice way?
He wasn't a pawn in the game or anything. I mean,
yes, he was. Stevie, I love Stevie. And he's so kind, but there was too many times, and I kept bringing this up all season, where they would I'm like, they're bullying Stevie. It is like evident. Like they are bullying him. He is kind of the comedic relief of the game. No one, if you saw how they looked at Stevie, no one took him seriously. Not one person looked at Stevie as anything other than a number. Stevie will vote with us. Like no one ever asked for Stevie's opinion. And when I remember this one scene in particular where it was like watching a high school CW drama. It was like literally Stevie was talking with Jerry, Shawnee, and George about who to vote. And he was trying to say we should split votes. And they were talking down to him. They were literally laughing at him. I remember Jerry and like Shawnee looking at each other and laughing while he's trying to explain splitting votes. And George is like, no, that makes no sense. Jerry, we can't split votes. We don't have the numbers to split votes. And they had a point. They didn't. Like if they went to split votes, then Maddie, then the other Maddie, Flick, and whoever else I'm trying to think of could have easily voted for them to get, George out. So they're like, we have 4 of us. We can't split 2-2 because they have 3. We have to all stick together and hope Maddie goes with us. So that was like the situation. He
didn't get a good edit. I can tell you that. So
it's the point where we literally had people in interviews saying Stevie was just kind of Stevie. He was just, he He was just there, and that's why I kind of want to put him in Did You Even Show Up?
No, he won a challenge. He won a challenge now. I can't put him in Did You Show Up?
That was his highest moment, though. That was his one moment from the season, is winning that challenge. Everyone looked at him as a joke, and I'm not saying that's Stevie's fault, but he never really.
It was 9 other people that went home before Stevie did.
Yeah, but there's a thing called a GOAT, and in Survivor, I think Stevie was the definition of a GOAT, not doing anything, just being brought along. And the thing is, like, he just never really tried to take a hold of his game. He jumped from Simon, and then he went to George. Why you wanted George out since the get-go? And we're going to get into this a lot with a bunch of these people where I don't understand why everyone just follows George like they're
he wanted George out.
George
put him out.
George has like mind control abilities and like hypnotizes everyone because they just, oh, George is obviously the best player in the game, but let's just follow him and do everything he says. And that's Stevie was one of those people. You wanted George out. You're like, I'm going to get George out this season. And then he blows up Simon's game. And the next thing you know, he's just like, yes, George, I will do whatever you say. And he just jumps ship just like that and starts working with the guy that he wanted to get out just because he blew up. He literally said at one point, I want to play with George because he's so good at this game. That means you should want to get him out, not that you want to play with him. So that's my argument.
Look at it. Look at it now. George played a masterful game to convince Stevie to align with him, and he threw Simon on the bus at the exact same time. And here's the thing about it is, you trying to get, depending on what like he's number 9 people have already gone home. So you still want to stay out there and play whatever game you play in. And for Simon not to save him and to George to save him, that was a masterful move. Now, would we like to see more of Stevie in a different light? Of course, but the edit's still edit for a show. I think Stevie had good times out there. We just didn't see him on the edits. So, but he came to play. He gave 100% in challenges. He did his part in the voting because he still had to vote. He could have always changed his mind, but I think he was there. It just wasn't his game. This group of people, because that's what they call them, villains. We got to remember they're villains and heroes, and if you're playing a true villain, Stevie got what he got. That's what he was supposed to get. They're villains. They're not nice villains. They're villains. So,
Tegwyth, anything else you want to add to this?
I think that Stevie, I think we're also forgetting that a couple of times the heroes were trying to get Stevie onto their side. Stevie was the liaison. They thought that Simon thought that they get Stevie. I think that Stevie had a little bit more agency than we're giving him credit for, because people saw him as a free agent and did try to bring him over once or twice. And, they did the thing where it was like, if you do this, he will, he'll see that as a
symbol.
As a symbol that for a sign to trust me, we'll be fine. And so I think that he has a little bit more agency in the game than we're giving him credit for. I would be fine with compromising and putting, but it just is if we see who we have up here, we have Paige, we have Charney, we have Michael in Wasn't Your Game. Are we really going to put Stevie below Paige and Charney and Michael? That's a hard thing for me, a hard pill for me to swallow, where I don't know that Stevie had a worse game than those 3. Did he have a little bit more of a different game? Yeah, but I don't know that it was necessarily worse. I think that he was in the wrong. I don't know. I see where everyone is coming from though. That's it. That's the only thing.
So we're putting him, I'm not using my golden idol to make sure he goes into Did You Even Show Up?
Fine. Let me just say I'm okay with it. Okay, Siri. I would be okay with putting him at the very bottom of Wasn't Your Game, but I do think that he's not in Did You Even Show Up, personally.
Can I come back and use my golden idol at the end, or do I got to use it on the person?
I was thinking of, I don't think so. The golden idol, you can come back in the end and say, I want to use it on this person and move them up. Like I said, everyone, this is our first time doing this. So we're kind of playing with stuff here. We added this in. We did not talk about this golden idol at all until the episode started. I think the golden idol cannot be used on the winner when we're trying to pick our winner.
Yeah.
Because then we would all say it'd be an auction situation. We'd all save it and then we'd all try to use it. So it can't be used on the winner. Everything else you can use it on.
Cool.
Okay.
So, I mean, Abraham, do you agree with this? Like, do you want to put him at the bottom of wasn't your game?
Yeah, I mean, he to be on the game and last as long as he did and have as much fun as he did. Sometimes the edit gives us a different perspective of people, and it's not all of them on the game, and that's unfortunate. But again, they're making a show. So somebody got to fit fit the role of certain people, and they kind of made him fit like he was a pawn in the game and not really playing the game. We just don't know the whole story. So based off what I've seen of him, I think he played a good game.
We are now at the merge. All right, so now we get to talk about everyone who merged, but unfortunately, this first person we're going to talk about didn't get to make the jury, and I think that is stupid, because I think if you make the merge, you should be able to make the jury. Real quick, before we continue on here, I almost started laughing because I just started thinking about us doing this for season 44 of U.S. Survivor, and I'm like, the first 4 people we're going to have to talk about, not counting Bruce, but the first 4, we're literally going to have to talk and I know this is gonna happen because Tegwyth is going to be like, okay, why can't I remember the first person? Matt, we're gonna have to talk about Maddie, Helen, Claire, and Sarah, and I'm gonna have to try to convince Tegwyth that all of them belong in wasn't your game or did you even show up? And I don't know if that's possible.
It's not possible. I'm going to find 4 golden idols and I'm going to use them all. I'm going to find them in the wilderness. I'm going to use them all and put them all as the winner prediction.
New rule. If you don't use your golden idol here, they carry over.
Don't tell me that.
Has anybody seen that Survivor show that's on Netflix?
Oh, I've heard about
Total Drama Island?
Yes.
They quit. The players literally quit. They was like, nope, can't play like this, and they quit.
Tegwyth, don't tell me you watch Total Drama Island, because I've been thinking about who's going to do the coverage for me with this new season. Don't tempt me. But if you are watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure to follow, leave us a rating. And again, let us know in the comments if you're enjoying this. This is something new we're trying. We're going on the spot. But yeah, I think I'll add that rule if everyone's cool with that. If you don't use the golden idol here, you don't feel like it needs to be used, you can save it. But you can only have a max of 3. We're not doing this thing where you have like 9 of them and you're like, I control this entire draft. So yeah, if everyone's cool with that, you can save them for next time if you want to as well. But let's get into this merge. So first things first, we just talked about Stevie. So it's Tegwyth's turn to talk about David. We found out David had a close alliance with Nina, but besides that, we didn't see much of David before the merge.
Yeah, we didn't see much of David, but I will say, we heard a lot of people and how much they loved David. And so I think that does indicate a really good social game. So I think, he wasn't idled out. He was rightfully voted out by the 7 people that came together that weren't the heroes, the OG heroes. They were kind of a mismatch of people. So, I do think that he definitely wasn't robbed. Part of me wants to put him at solid gameplay, but I also think, just having a social game like that, I didn't see much of a strategic from him. What I did see was him telling Liz not to play her idol for Shawnee, even though Shawnee obviously didn't need it, but saying it in that moment makes me feel like she would need it and I would play it for her. So I think I am going to put him at the top of wasn't your game.
Okay. I mean, David, I wish we saw more of him because he's such a fan of the show and he loves the show. And I'm so sad that he was like the purple edit. And as you said, he was the first person who fell victim to this Maddie and Haley flipping to work under George's rule. Exactly. So he was the first casualty here. And we're going to see that as the next 3 people voted off were OG heroes. I'm thinking solid gameplay because of that social aspect that you add in. Nina loved David. Like, we didn't know this, but he was like her right-hand man. It seemed like they were like a duo in the game. And you could tell it obviously hurt Nina a little bit that he went home that night. He also was in the Meat Tray Alliance. He was also in that 4-person alliance of Liz, Nina, Sam, and David that just lasted like one vote pretty much before Liz jumped ship. So I think he had a really good social game. I just wish we saw more of it from the edit, obviously. But I kind of want to put him in solid gameplay right after Jordy, because I thought his social game, I mean, everyone loved him. He literally had his hand in a bunch of cookie jars. Like, he had many different routes he could take, and he just fell victim to George's master plan. So I know you're saying, so right now, Abraham, before you add your opinion, Tegwyth is saying put him at the top of wasn't your game. I'm saying put him about midway of solid gameplay.
Oh, deciding vote. I like to be the swing vote. I'm gonna have to go with you, Randy. And here's the reason why. We learned more about his game through Nina. And it's interesting that the edits don't let us see some of the stuff that connects everybody. We know he had a good alliance with Sam, but we didn't know he had a good connection with Nina. And I mean, he performed in the challenges. He was competitive. And he was right on the bubble, the not making the jury. And he played a solid game. He just wrong place, wrong time, and they got him. And sometimes you just fall victims of it, and especially with doing the merge, where now you got to say, okay, which side do you fall on? Because if we remember, Sam was the target long before he became the target, and it was like, well, let's cut off your right hand. So, but I think I'm gonna put him up there with you. Solid game. We just didn't see a lot of him because of the edit.
Tegwyth, any counter arguments to Abraham and myself about where he ends up here?
I see that. I think that's fine. I'm fine with that.
All good? Perfect. Well, next up, so I get to talk about my girl Flick. So congratulations, Flick. Yeah, she just got married. It breaks my heart because I had a huge crush, a huge Survivor crush on Flick. So, but she is very hard to judge for me in terms of gameplay. I think she had a good social game going for her. We saw her playing, but at the same time, I don't know if it was strong enough of a social game. So she's definitely not robbed. I don't think she was a top player this season, not as much as I wanted her to be. I'm kind of leaning, and I'm like I said, my memory's awful, so I'm trying to remember. I mean, her getting in with Liz and Shawnee might have been her best moment from the entire season.
She flipped.
So I think that was her best moment. She obviously had the cookie idol blunder, which wasn't really her fault. Like, everyone believed it was an idol, but once they found out it wasn't, it was just, and Simon's like, I didn't know it wasn't an idol either. Oh, we don't believe you. What do you mean you don't believe him? Like, literally everyone thought it was an idol except for Benji.
The only person who would have known it wasn't an idol.
Yeah, it was Benji. So
was the one who was the one on the other end of it.
So I mean, this is gonna hurt me to say, I'm torn between putting her at the very top of wasn't your game by a mile, or no, I think I want to put her solid gameplay. Right in front of David, because like I said, her biggest thing this season was getting in with the girls. But was it the right decision to flip back to the heroes? That was a questionable one. I don't know. She was in a lose-lose situation, right? She goes with the heroes, then it pisses off the vigilantes. She goes with the vigilantes, she pisses off the heroes.
I disagree. I think she wasn't in a lose-lose situation. I think she made it a lose-lose situation. I think if she goes with the heroes, she would have been fine, and I don't think she would have been targeted next. If being on the other side, but the fact that she was the one that was throwing out Shawnee and Liz's name when they saved her, I think that she made it a lose-lose situation. I don't think that she would have been the one being voted out next, because I still think that they did feel like they had a true connection with her, which I think is her positive for that. But I think that I think she is the only reason that she got voted out when she did, personally.
Well,
She blew up her
the
game.
thing is too, she should have thrown out George's name. I'm still wondering to this day if Liz and Shawnee would have went with her if she said, "Hey, let's make a move on George." But for whatever reason, because they seemed really tight with her.
No, but she threw it out. She threw out their names to the OG heroes, and the only reason why Liz and Shawnee heard about it was because I think Haley and Matt told them that Flick threw out their own names, and it was like they weren't even on the table. Like it was like Flick brought them up, and so I think that was the final nail in her coffin. Like you don't just do that to someone who just saved you.
Little
and they
out
already
of
pressured George. They pressured George to vote for somebody else at tribal council, and he said Flick will turn on you. And when they came back and the next tribal council came up, Flick turned on him.
Yeah.
Well, a little out of order, but Tegwyth, I know you just gave your opinion on Flick here. Where do you have her before we get to Abraham and his comments?
So here's my thing. I think that she does go in solid gameplay. I think that the fact that she was able to ingratiate herself in such a way that Liz was going to play an idol for her is an incredible feat that not many Survivor players can say that they did. And she did that in only a couple of days. Like it wasn't like, they were with each other for the longest time. They did that over, like 3 or 4 days. So that I think is very amazing. And that shows a very, very, very good social game. I think the fact that she was, back on the heroes tribe in the beginning, like she was still making these connections with people who didn't really trust her, and they were still kind of playing with her, and she was, still kind of in it. And I think that was a really good thing. I think the reason why she's not robbed is literally the fact that she threw out Liz and Shawnee's name or maybe not robbed, but at the top of solid gameplay. I think that was a really bad move and the exact opposite of the game that she was playing, which was an amazing social game. And I get where she was coming from strategically, but it just like even if like they would have been, I guess they wouldn't have been on the jury, that person would, but the other one would have. And if I were either Liz or Shawnee, oh man, I would definitely not vote for you at the end. So I think that's also not very good jury management. So I think that she goes above David. I was maybe putting her at the top of solid gameplay, but I'm going to put her above David in the middle.
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean,
Abraham, you agree with that?
Look, here's the thing about it is Flick blew her own game up. I mean, and it happens in the game of Survivor. You make a move thinking it's a good move, and next thing you realize it wasn't a good move. And that's the thing about it. You don't know until afterwards it wasn't a good move. But she was playing the game. And she lasted longer. People wanted to save her, give up idols. They want to vote other people out, so they didn't vote Flick out. But George said, you can't trust Flick. And we know once George put his eyes on you, it's a wrap. And Flick becomes the next bowling pin in George's bowling game, so she got knocked out.
So she goes right here. She slots into third place currently. We all agreed on that one, which was really interesting. We have a total of 6 people left before you can no longer use that golden idol that we put out there, because you cannot use it to decide who we think is going to win the game. So next up, we've got Sam. Starting us off with Sam, I believe, is Abraham. Yeah, Abraham, you get to start us off with Sam here.
Okay, Sam just had a quiet game. I mean, it's nothing that I can be like, oh yeah, Sam did this. Because once they target Sam was like, why are you trying to vote me out? I'm just here. So, edit. We saw him compete, but as far as strategy goes and trying to make some stuff happen, I got to put him down there. Wasn't your game?
Oh,
it just wasn't. It wasn't his type of game. I think he's probably one of those he's a really stand-up type of guy. We talked to him in the interview. Really stand-up type of guy. Coming on there as a hero and a villain and then being intermixed, I don't think it was his game. I think he should have been on a different type of Survivor game with a different title. But it's just heroes and villains. No.
Is it my turn?
Yes.
Okay, so I definitely agree. I think he puts at the top. I think I put him at the top of wasn't your game. Here's the reason why. Obviously, there was an alliance, right? There was a very strong heroes alliance. But when push came to shove and people were forced to give a name, Sam was that name. And I think, that says something, right? They would have rather kept, who was it, Sean and David over Sam in this alliance. And I'm not saying anything against Sam. I think he was fine, but I think that shows that his ties weren't as strong as some of the other ones, or they didn't feel as strong as some of the other ones, or he felt maybe a little, maybe not just disposable is not the right word, but they didn't need him in that alliance. And so, I do think that he made it far. He was great in challenges.
Yeah.
He did all of that stuff, but I think he is at the very top of Wasn't Your Game because of that.
Man, I knew you guys were going to put him low. And I was seriously thinking about using my golden idol to put him up in Robbed.
Oh, no. Did you like a different show?
I'm not going to, because I'm saving it. Because I fell in love with Sam watching him play. It is very hard to play an honest game. And for the most part, I feel like Sam was playing as good of an honest game that he could. Not saying it was flawless. I just think he could have went very far if the number stayed in his favor. I really liked his odds. He had that instance where he had to decide how to divvy up the food. And I wasn't saying that's his brightest moment, but I do think he made at least one right decision by picking the bread, or whatever the worst thing was. I think it was bread. And I think Sam got robbed due to the fact that if the numbers went in his favor, and we're talking about Sam final 5, final 6, I think he would have been a very dangerous player. And I could have saw a world where he went on to win the entire game.
Wow.
Look, you see those movies that have the alternate endings? This is what this is. This is an alternate ending
I've seen the
vote out.
French version of the show.
Well, here's my thing about Sam is what I think about what to me encapsulates his game is when they were deciding who to send over to the villains. He outright said, we should send somebody that we don't really feel bad about losing. And then they go and send Jerry, and you're going to go over to this tribe. And then they're like, oh, wait, this person, they don't feel bad about me if they lost me. I think that was such a blunder.
Wasn't the smartest thing. He lost Jerry. He lost the heroes, Jerry.
Yeah. I truly believe that. And I think that was such a blunder. And I think that I've only seen 3 seasons of Australian Survivor, and 1 was his original season. And I loved him on his season. He played a really honest game and really great game. But I feel like an honest game can only get you so far, because Survivor is not an honest game. And so I don't think, especially nowadays, I low-key don't think a jury really respects an honest game, because it's not actually honest. It just is pretending to be honest. And so
I see some gameplay.
Yeah. I think nowadays jury likes to see gameplay. So, but that was I don't know. Him saying that to Jerry really stuck with me, and I thought that was a really bad blunder.
I loved you guys' shocked faces when I was like, robbed, and you were like, "What? Does he even watch the show?" So,
I like to use my golden thing now.
Oh, do you?
Yes.
Don't use it yet.
Okay.
You don't want to use it? I need to know. Now everybody knows you have it. Everyone knows Abraham has a golden idol. What were you gonna move him down to? Did you even show up?
Oh no, man, Sam is in the right spot. He's not gonna get
No, I know what he's talking about. But don't use it yet. Don't use it yet.
Next up, we have Shawnee. I'm just gonna put her here
as you should.
Without even speaking.
Do we need to talk about it?
I believe that whose turn is it to talk? Who started? Is it me? Oh man, Shawnee this year. I don't even know how to explain. There's not even words to say about how disappointed I was with her exit. Everyone's going to argue with me in the comments, and everyone's going to call me stupid, especially after that last Sam comment that I made where people are like, he's not even watching the show. Randy's stupid. She was controlling this game. She
Oh,
was
yeah.
the winner. If she is sitting next to George at the finale, Shawnee is winning this game. I don't care if George is the person who, in everyone's eyes, is running it. George was a robot with Shawnee in the back of his mind the entire time. She was controlling this game. She was using George as a shield, and her and Liz were going to cut that guy loose once they got to the final three.
If only.
That's exactly how it was going to play out. And it didn't, just because George was able to catch wind of the shiz. If he did not hear that comment, Shawnee would be in the final four right now instead of I would say Maddie would be out right this second. It would be Shawnee, George, Liz, and Jerry, in my opinion. And it would have came down to a 2-2. And I think we would have been getting a badass fire making, because I think it would have been between George and Jerry voting. I would say they probably would have voted Shawnee, and Shawnee and Liz would have voted George. And we would have had Shawnee versus George at fire making.
I don't think George would still be in this game. George would have been out. No. George would have been out in Haley's spot.
That's a good take too.
George would have been gone earlier. George, I think we would have a different final four. I think if anybody is watching or listening right now, and if you are going to ever go on Survivor, I think you learn a very valuable lesson from Shawnee. If you are in an alliance, and I would probably done this. If you're in an alliance, a bigger alliance, and then you have a smaller alliance within that alliance, just don't name it. Just don't name it. Or name it white rice or something that, like, if somebody walks up and overhears you, you're not going to think that you're talking about an alliance. I think this is a very valuable lesson. Don't name your alliance if you're a smaller alliance within a larger alliance of like 3. So, oh man, heartbroken.
She played the game. I mean, finding idols, using idols, sharing idols, manipulating the vote, voting folks out, saving people. Because now she saved George. So if she hadn't saved George, she would have became the target. But
twice. Yeah. And then she also knew when she needed to take a step back and trust the process, aka George's amazing tribal council. She didn't really understand what was going on, and she said, go ahead and lead. You know what I mean? That's somebody who knows the game. That's somebody who is just an all-around, like, well-versed player and person. And yeah, robbed goddess. And
Shawnee, what I was looking up when people are like, Randy's over here on his phone, I was listening to everything and nodding away to everything you guys said. Shawnee has set the record for days played of Australian Survivor now at 124 days. She has finished 4th, 7th, and 9th. That is extremely impressive to do.
And this was her worst showing?
Yeah, this was her worst showing. 4th, 7th, and 9th. And she was controlling the game. And she got...
put her in the winner prediction, like...
Was
she? She's become one of my favorite Survivor.
Yeah,
like, players ever. Like, I always say, in terms of, like, because I do connect with male players more just because I am a male. Yeah. But I would always say, when talking about my favorite Survivor players, Cochran, always at the top, Jeremy, Ruber, and then I'm like, I do have to throw an incredible woman up there. And I would always say Michelle Fitzgerald, because her first time playing, I was like, I was one of those people. She doesn't deserve it. She's a GOAT winner. And I was dumb at the time because I watched her at Winners at War. Then I went back to rewatch the season when I was a bit older, understood the game more, had more respect for how she played. And I love Michelle Fitzgerald, but Shawnee is up there. And this is the first time I'm saying it. She might be my favorite female player ever. She's just so good at the game, except for challenges. Cherie is good. Cherie is good as well. For those of you who don't know, I haven't seen like any of Cherie's season. I saw her latest season. I saw Game Changers.
Did you not see the Mashable, how she got voted out? Because she was the only person.
I did see that. I did see that. She got screwed too. We all know I love Cherie, but that was a small tangent. But we all agree Shawnee was robbed. And for everyone in the comments who are saying, I think Jordy was robbed. I think Ben
blew his game up.
Ben was robbed. Are they on the same level as Shawnee? Because Shawnee is literally the definition of raw.
That is the game that that right there. Where the level is Shawnee.
Because you're playing idols, you working with people, you voting folks out, and you having a good time. Like she's had a good time, and she's competing in challenges.
And she left with a smile on her face, like she is a true. I mean, I strive to be more like Shawnee. Like that's
I've updated the official names for the Rob section. Anyway, so let's
Shawnee.
Man, I hope she sees this because we all absolutely love you, as we do everybody. Her. But well, for the most part. Yeah. Next up, so we have Abraham
we got
covering Sean. I mean, the big horse, which I'll just throw it out there. I was shocked that he was not more of a challenge beast this season. Absolutely.
Well, he was targeted as
he didn't win one individual immunity.
But he did what he could for his tribe, but they kind of nullified him by saying we're just gonna let him win. We're just gonna let Sean. We know Sean, who competes against, he's gonna beat him. So let's go ahead and sacrifice that. And you got to think about it. As a team, the heroes were just steamrolling over the villains. I mean, they were winning. They were putting the villains out. For a minute there, I didn't think we was going to have any villains to actually, even do a merge with, because they were killing them. But I think once they swapped and he had to really start playing the game and figuring out what direction to go in, he just kind of misstepped. And he had an idol too. Did he play his idol?
For himself.
Incorrectly.
And told Sam he would buy him beers.
Oh, yeah.
And after Haley told them that Sam was going to...
Who they were voting for. Yeah, Haley literally said, we are voting for this person.
They could have voted out George.
Oh, it was a George vote out. I think he played a solid game. I just think it just wasn't... He just ran out of people. He just ran out of alliance folks. That's all because everybody else was scrambling too. I think he just ran out of folks. So, but I'll give him a solid game. I'll put him before David.
Tegwyth, you're up next.
I agree. I'm also going to have to say solid gameplay, and I have a couple of reasons. One is I think that he, unlike many other people, kept his idol hidden, which I think is a very important thing when you have an idol, don't share it. He kept it hidden for, I think, 22 days. Now, did he play it absolutely incorrectly as you possibly could? Yes, he did. But he did keep it hidden for a long time, and I do think that you get some props for that. Next thing, I also think he did a very good job at manipulating Simon. Simon specifically. Simon loves Sean. And like any Survivor fan, if you go on Survivor and your Survivor idol is there, if I'm playing with Christian Hubicki, I'm going to do whatever Christian Hubicki tells me to do.
Same love with Cochran. Yeah,
you know what I mean? There are people that I will be blinded, and it'll be very difficult for me to actually play my game. And I think that Sean knew how to exploit that. And he did. And he did it in a way that I think ended up causing some chaos and ended up, getting Simon on his side. Obviously, Simon then went back and then came back and then went back. It was a whole thing, right? But, Simon gave up an idol that he thought was a good idol for Sean. You see what I mean? Like, that is very impressive. I think that is some very solid gameplay. And while he didn't win a lot of individual immunities, I don't think that big guys like that are going to be he was big and tall, and some of those are going to be are not going to be great for those really big, really he was 6'7". He is 6'7". He's big.
He lost to Nina in the chair.
Yeah, so there are some things that just aren't going to be that kind of strength that is going to be needed. So I think it's solid gameplay. I think he had better gameplay than Benjamin. I think I put him at the top of solid gameplay.
Ooh, I don't know
we're gonna disagree because from your talk, I was thinking wasn't your game at first because that idol blunder was just...
It was bad.
I can't even... You were told who they're voting, and I know you would say, well, Randy, you don't know if they're telling the truth.
He got the meat tray. He had the meat tray, so he had to do a lot.
You were told who they're voting for by Haley, who had been close to you most of the game, who had been your very close ally. I know she just turned on you. But if you were to trust anyone and maybe flipping this game on its head, it's going to be Haley. And she told you who they're voting for, and you still played it for yourself. But you did talk me into solid gameplay because he did for someone who automatically is going to be looked at as a big challenge threat. He did have a social game to him, and keeping the idol to himself is very impressive. And some would argue at some point in this game when the heroes were just dominated, you could maybe look at Sean as being the front runner of who's leading the vote and who's leading the decisions. I would say him and Haley. I would put him before David, but after Flick. Personally,
before David, but after Flick.
So I know, Abraham, you said you would put him. You would put him after David, right?
No, I'll put him between Flick and David.
Tegwyth, do you have a counter argument about why you should be above Flick, Jordy? I know you said above Ben.
I think he had really solid alliances, and I think that is important for somebody that has such a large target on his back like he does. He's literally he just is such a big guy. Now being a big guy like that during the pre-merge, I think is you're pretty easy to like make it through. So I don't think he needed to have a lot of gameplay then, but I think he did. Can we compromise and just do above Flick?
Yeah.
Actually,
I'm okay with,
you know what? No, I'm fine with Flick. I'm fine with it the way you guys said it. I'm fine with that.
You're okay with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
There we go.
All right, so we'll place him here, which puts him in the top 5 at the moment.
I just want to say I'm very confused how Benjamin is the second highest ranked person right now.
Benjamin got a masterful. He was masterful at tribal council.
I love Benji. He's great. A really good tribal council. I just wanted to point that out.
Do we need
to think about?
No, he did some work.
Yet.
He did some work.
We'll talk about it at the end. I will say for Benji's case, he's just so smart at the game. And I think I don't think it was his fault that he couldn't get a grist. Like, he kept trying to get in alliances and he kept having these great ideas of what they should do. And then he even got to the point where he's super smart. And then he's like, okay, no one's working with me and people think I'm a threat. Maybe I should back off. And he did. And he's like, Flick, Sean, Flick, Maddie, I'll do whatever you want. Let's stay hero strong here. And that's not really what he wanted to do. He was just trying to take a backseat. So, but I do see what you're saying. It's weird seeing him in front of Flick and Sean and Jordy. And he is the second highest rated player right now. By the way,
I'm not mad at it though. You know what? We got to go with the flow. If that's what we think, we got to own it.
Yeah, I mean, huge fan of I'm going to be biased. He called me a legend in a comment. So, right, I'm going to be biased. So
if you play with him, vote him out because he's coming.
Next up, we have Haley. Tegwyth, go ahead and start us off with Haley, the only returning winner on this season.
I want to start off with, she is also the first Australian winner to get past the winner's curse, right? I think she had one of the best games of this season. I think she knew when to flip when she needed to flip. She created an alliance that somebody was giving her tips from another tribe, right? Was giving her insight. George was telling her where idols could be. George was saying, go ahead and Haley was telling George, trust Jerry. You have all of this stuff happening pre-merge. She was the top of her tribe pre-merge. How was a winner on the top of her tribe pre-merge? She also was very close to being voted out that one time that ended up not being a vote out, right? I do want to point out that there was a chance that she could have been voted out, but she wasn't, right? And then she flipped and was, just a big part of it. I think that I personally think she was robbed. I think she was robbed. I think that if she had made it to the end, she could have won. I think the only person that she could not have beat other than Shawnee would be George. I don't think that she would have beat George, but I think that she could have beat pretty much anybody else. And I think the sole argument she needed to be was, why wasn't I the first person voted out? Why am I sitting here? That's on you guys. That's on you. So, I think that she was robbed.
I was having her second place in solid gameplay because she had a great season. I question why she wanted to work with George so much. I understand maybe using him as a shield, and she did end up getting to the point where she's like, okay, now it's time for me to cut George. My argument is you waited too long. You waited. Flick's out of the game, could have helped you out. Sean's out of the game, could have helped you out. Sam's out of the game, could have helped you out. I don't know why she wanted to wait so long. And this is going to be a reoccurring theme now because a lot of these people, it pissed me off a lot of times. Why are we going with George? Why? And I don't understand. Haley's a smart girl, and I think that was a lapse of judgment.
I disagree, though. Let me just say, she literally gave the insight. Like, it's not her fault the people that she was playing with did a dumb thing, right? She said, hey, play your idol for Sam. Do this. And that would have been a blindside of George. And that would have been instead of Sam. So let me be the devil's advocate here and say that she did try to do that without blowing up her own game at first.
Well, I was going to say, Tegwyth, you convinced me. I think I'm also on the robbed side after your first argument here, but she is definitely behind Shawnee if she goes up on robbed. Like, she is miles behind. I would put her above Benji or behind Shawnee, and I can be convinced either way. So I want to hear Abraham's argument here because it was impressive that Haley kept talking to George across tribal lines. She did she find an idol this season?
I don't think she did.
No. But she blew her own game up. I mean, she played a masterful game to survive and make it to the merge, especially the winners. Because usually what you say is the winners don't deserve to win again.
And that's impressive that she got to the final 7 here. You got there.
But like Ted would say, you try to align yourself with Sam and Sean and say, hey, this is the vote. They don't vote for it. George sets you up by telling you that he has won something, and he knows if he hears it back, you're the only person that knew that he had won, and sure enough, you went and told and said, I won something. And that was it. Now it's time to put you back on the bowling.
I really wish, this is something that I wanted to say, I really wish that she would have said, he found it on the thing with Liz and Shawnee. How do you know that you found it from me? Because Liz also knew, right? Mm-hmm. So I feel like there's a way that she could have said something like, hey, Liz also knew.
George set up masterfully. He was like, because Liz and them would have already told.
That is true. I do think that George set her up for that, and I think that was a very good move on George. But I think that it's in any other like, I think that's a good move, though. I think she knew what she needed to do, but unfortunately, Matt and Jerry are just blindly loyal. And I think that is the thing that no one expected, that Matt and Jerry would just be blindly loyal to George. And it is very smart of George to have found these two people to put around him. But I think that that's not anyone else's fault for not seeing that these people are blindly loyal. Like, I don't think if I would go into a season of Survivor, I don't think I would expect anybody to be that loyal to anyone ever at all. Like, the fact that, like, Jerry, like, George, this is a Nina thing, obviously. The fact that George told Nina to write down Jerry's name and Jerry still was on George's good side is wild to me, right? That's just that blind loyalty and blind friendship. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think that she had a very impressive game. And I think, she was great in challenges. She did a lot of really, like, awesome things. And I just think she's robbed.
Abraham, do you agree
any other
with
season
us?
she would have got it? Well, no, I'm good with that. But I think if she was on any other season, she would have got voted out first. She wouldn't have made it to merge because the first thing you target is somebody that's already, because you use that as a targeting. No, she's already won one time. That's the target right there. You ain't got to use anything else. And she made it pass.
I think she was super lucky that Rogue was on our tribe.
Very lucky. Definitely. But so Haley takes over second in the robbed queens category. No,
that makes me feel better.
Robbed queens. So I'm gonna go ahead and start us off with Simon. And Simon. This could get interesting because Simon was a tough one this year. He had messy gameplay on one hand, and on the other hand, I mean, like really bad mess. I'm talking like baby diarrhea mess. Sorry to put that image out there. But on the other hand, I'm someone who finds it really, really impressive if you can make it far in the game, and if you can make it far in the game without having a key alliance. He should have been out long ago, back when everyone was mad at him. And yet we're talking about Simon in the final 6. I think
we put him at?
He was good at immunity challenges. He won 4 this season. And that's what you have to do when you've messed up bad. I keep thinking back to Troyzan for One World, or was it Worlds Apart or One World?
One World.
Sure. He played for his survival.
He had nowhere to go. Absolutely nowhere. The girls were trying to get him off, and he won back to back to back to back or whatever. And that's what Simon needed to do. And he was this close to shaking. Well, I don't think it would have shook up the game because Nina would have went home there, but maybe he wins the next immunity challenge. And Tegwyth and I talked about this on our recap show. This close. And Simon might be sitting in the final 4 right now. Because I think Liz might have worked with Simon, potentially.
Simon was his own worst player.
I think Simon goes unrobbed.
No.
Interesting.
I think Simon, yes, he had messy gameplay. The cookie idol, did he make the right decision to build trust in the end? Yes, he had no idea it wasn't an idol. Yes, it screwed his game. I don't hold that against him, though, because if that was a real idol like he thought, that was the right decision because he needed a home and he would have built trust. He was able to rebuild his bond with George. Did he break it again? Yes, he did. And it wasn't one of his highlights, but someone had to do it. And Simon knew, and he had the wherewithal, which a lot of Survivor players don't have this go through their mind, and they're just blindly loyal like Maddie and Jerry. He knew, I am the bottom of this vigilante alliance. I am 7. So he kept trying to find a different way. So I don't really hold it against him that he screwed George again because he knew he was at the bottom of that 7. So Simon was the cockroach of the season. He was doing what he had to do to survive in this game. And arguably he had to survive more than anybody else this season and fight more than anyone else. And he made it to the final 6, which I think is very impressive for Simon. Abraham, it's up to you, man. You're up next, and then Tegwyth.
No, he wasn't robbed. Simon was allowed to stay in the game because of other people's game. It wasn't because of his own gameplay. Anytime he got a chance to flip, flop, do whatever, Simon was all about it. But the caveat was, we don't care what Simon does as a vote. We already know what we got to vote. So he wasn't impacting anybody else's game because it kind of took him out of it. The only thing that he has that says he survived was he won challenges. And as soon as he lost a challenge, guess what happened? They voted him out. So the target was always going to be in his back. I don't even want to say he was solid gameplay. I want to say it just wasn't his game.
Whoa.
He could just never get a footing, and everybody kind of used him, or he had to go to somebody else for every vote. There was never a vote where he was a mastermind behind the vote, and the reason why he didn't get voted out, there was somebody else that was a bigger threat at the time. So they wasn't even concerned about him winning challenges against him. They was like, no, this person right here is a bigger threat. Let's get him out. So Simon really was in the game, but he wasn't in the game. So no, I'm going to put him at, it just wasn't his game.
I am going to disagree with both of you. So I'm curious as to how this is going to work. Because here's the thing. The reason, to me, the robbed category needs to be someone who I see going to the end and actively seeing them being able to get some jury votes and seeing a winner there. Personally. And I think that Simon reminds me a little bit of a Xander, where I feel like I see his gameplay. I'm not saying they're the same games, but like, I think that, if Simon makes it to the end, I don't think anybody on the season is going to be voting for Simon to win. Because I feel like they're like, you know what? I know we knew what you had to do. We understood what you had to do. But we just didn't really respect that as the game obviously depending on who he's sitting next to, right? But I just really don't see a lot of people voting for him. So that's why I'm not going to put him in the robbed. The reason why I don't want to put him in wasn't your game is because to me personally, like that is a game play to me, is somebody who sees that they're not in the place that they need to be, and so they make moves to do it. Now, was he ever the person to steer a vote? No, but did he try to? Yes, many times. He tried to get George out like 9 times. Obviously, it never worked. And so I think that like there is a very good player in Simon. He had a really strong alliance with Jordy that Jordy then blew up. You know what I mean? Like he had some strong alliances. He had some friends, or I guess Jordy didn't really blow it up. It was George and then whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's just, I think, he had some good gameplay. And I think that, he did win challenges, and there were challenges that he didn't win and he wasn't voted out for. Like, I think he didn't win like 2 or 3 challenges.
Yeah. To the point where George was like, no, this is the time we are getting him out. We are not overthinking this.
So Jonathan was like, are you still here?
Like, I think that I could see him in theory sitting in final 2. I just don't think, like, I think if he sits next to Jerry, Jerry's going to win. I think if he sits next to Matt, Matt's going to win. Like, I don't think I see him winning, but I do think that he had solid gameplay. And I honestly think he maybe had better gameplay than Jordy or Ben. Like, I think like he had some pretty good gameplay. Even if and I think that I think gameplay and being like well liked are 2 different things. Like, I think that's why I don't think that he was robbed. Like, I don't think he had the best social game in the world. So I don't think that he was going to win. But I do think that like, his game like kind of moved him around and got him places and made it much further in the game than he ever would have had he not done that.
Was he the target the night he said when he called them all pawns? Was he even the target that night?
Yes, I mean, I would say he was.
Oh yeah.
They were trying to get Jerry to flip. And I think once he called him a pawn, Jerry nipped that in the bud, but I don't think he would have flipped anyways. Tegwyth,
because I think Jerry was on the fence because George had, did some stuff to him, but I don't Simon think so, he gave a great speech on pawns, and that just kind of solidified that he was going home.
No, I don't think he would have ever flipped, because you're telling me he was on the fence about to flip, and then he just had this like whole monologue about how much he adores George and loves George, and I think you're telling me that guy was going to flip 2 seconds later?
Yeah, but I mean, we get that from the edits, but we also get that from being triggered by Simon when he called him a pawn and he went on that little diatribe. Again, LBJ he a bus driver. He gassed the bus up.
I have to cut you off here. We've had people in the comments, Abraham, when you say LBJ, so it's JLP.
Oh, JLP. I was thinking about peanut butter and jelly sandwich. JLP. But he's the bus driver, man. He lines that bus up and he asks you a question. Do not answer it. Stay vague. And Simon took the bait and he jumped on that question, which solidified the response he got, which solidified the vote.
I mean, Tegwyth, you want to make an alliance here against Abraham? I'll compromise and go solid gameplay. But okay. But he's got to go above. But he's got to go above Ben.
Above Ben.
No.
Okay.
You're okay with that?
That's a lot of compromising, Tegwyth. I mean, you could have just slid back. I don't see him above Ben. He didn't give a masterful speech.
Here's the thing. I don't know. I do see him above. Okay, actually, let's put him. Abraham,
no, wrong way.
You got me. No, Abraham, you got me. I think you're right. I think let's do. Oh God, it's weird to put him above Flick.
No.
I tried making an alliance, and now you're turning on me and going with Abraham and making an alliance.
I'm not. Dude, you can go above Flick.
I'll give him credit for the wins because he fought the whole
Abraham,
time.
you can use your golden idol.
It won't be on Simon.
Oh, you're not using it on Simon to get him down here?
Is no one going to use the golden idol? Are we all saving it?
We hyped it up and not one person is going to use it.
No, because we use it. We get a new one. I'm going to use it. Hold up. We got to do the next one first. Then I'll use it.
Yeah. Put Simon above Flick for now, and then we'll reevaluate.
All right. We have to go in order, and this is how we've been keeping it fair because I'll explain it in a second. Abraham, technically, I think we messed up the lineup somewhere because I thought this was funny earlier. I thought I was going to be the one to talk about Nina, the one person who didn't pick her as the winner pick. So Abraham, you get to go first, and this keeps it fair, and I'll tell you why in a second. But Abraham, go ahead, say what you want to about Nina.
Hey, first of all, as a returnee that got injured to come back, play the game, and make it to the final 5, especially when.
Oh wait, hold on, real quick. Did we ever decide on Simon? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, we already decided on Simon.
Did we decide? I didn't know if I.
That's what we decided.
There, we did decide that. Okay.
Unless you want to move him.
No. That's what we said.
Back to Abraham. I don't know if we decided or not. Okay.
I mean, playing a game and trying to survive with just small numbers, and then you get a twist. You got to go basically in timeout and still being able to survive in a game and make it down to the final 5. You know how much work that takes? And she had a good alliance. It's just that they all got voted out. And it happens. They just decimate your alliance. But she also had to find a hidden immunity idol. She had to play it correctly. And her social game, I don't think we get enough credit on the edits on how good her social game is. And she is playing the game. Unfortunately, she made it to 5th. And now, coming from the U.S., she's not an Australian player. She's a U.S. player playing in an Australian game. She has to learn their mannerisms, their words, because they're words that they use when they're talking about stuff. I'm like, I got to look that up. I don't really know what that means because it's something from Australia. I think she played a masterful game, solid game.
Are you using your golden idol? Because you made it sound like you were going to use it on Nina.
No. She played a solid game.
Solid game?
Solid game. Oh, I'm putting it before Simon.
But after Jordy and Ben?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, what about you, Tegwyth?
I also think that she had a solid game. I think she, had a good alliance. Obviously, in that 7, it didn't work out in that way. And I think, that is it that stinks. But she was able to be a number here and there. She was able to kind of still be involved in things for a while. I think, she almost was voted out and then she wasn't. Obviously, she won an immunity. She played an idol incorrectly, which is so horrible still. But she won immunity, and there was a point in time in which I thought she was getting to Jerry. I really thought she was getting to Jerry. There was 24 hours in which she was talking to Jerry, and I think that she put a dent in that loyalty that he had, and I think that Jerry still has that friendship. All that stuff is good. It's just, I think that she did do a pretty good job at making a very good argument for herself. She fought and fought until the very end. And I do think that she had some solid gameplay. In the beginning, pre-merge, people were still going to her for ideas. And then, she still came up with some of her villainous ideas. Did I wish that she had played a little bit more like a villain the whole time? Yeah. But I don't think she was robbed. I do think if I see her going to the end at some point, I think I see her winning. I think if she could sit next to some people, if she sat next to some people, I think that she could have won. But I don't think she was robbed just because of her gameplay. So I think I'm going to put her solid gameplay. And I think I'm going to put her definitely above Simon, maybe above Jordy.
Wow, I misread you guys. I was saving my golden idol for Nina because I thought one of you was going to say robbed, and I disagree. Nina's gameplay this year was good, and I thought it got better in these last few episodes, but before that, I wasn't really that impressed with her gameplay this year. I just thought she wasn't the head of a lot of votes, and sure, that might not be completely her doing. I almost want to put her down with her good buddy David below Sean, because Sean's Miss Idol play is understandable, where like he knew he was a big threat and he wanted to play it for himself to keep him in the game and keep him safe, keep him secure. Where Nina, she literally said the words, I kind of just want to play it for myself, just to have that on my resume. I love you, Nina. That is so childish to me. In a game this important, where you were told who was going home, she was also told, right along with Sean. But Sean didn't say, Sean seriously thought it was him, where that's why he played it for him. He thought they were trying to fool him by saying Sam, where Nina didn't play it for her because she thought it was her. She literally said in the episode, I just want to play it for myself. And that is like, are you serious right now? I was so disappointed in that moment. And then the other thing is when Nina and Haley were being kind of like godfathered by Jordy, yes, Nina was like, I don't know if he would actually play it. And she did stick to her guns. But I also thought that was kind of weak that Haley and Nina were very close. I'll take that back though, because she did stick to her guns, but I'm like, they were very close to just going along with that. And that takes me back to Benjamin, when Ben just whispered in the girls' ears, I have an idol, do this. And I said it back on the podcast where the girls just went basically, okay, whatever you say. They didn't even question it. They just instantly went with Ben, who was on the bottom.
Well, I think for that one though, I think it was less of a hit, them going with Ben, and more of a like Paige felt wronged. I think Paige had more like stock in the tribe than Charney did, and so I think it was more of a less of a let's go with Ben and more of a Ben as an idol. I guess that means that we can go with Paige now. That's how it felt more of to me, rather than Ben just kind of telling them what to do.
You guys still plays idol.
You guys think Nina played a better game than Sean, though?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How? Can you give me one reason? I mean, I'm outruled, so it doesn't really matter, but can you give me one reason?
She's playing Australian Survivor. You got to redevelop just to play the game.
Well, so is Sean.
Sean had... So... Sean was never approached by the other faction, right? Sean was, he maybe was, but there were times when George used Nina as a vote. Like there were times when he said, do this, or we need your vote or whatever. And then Nina saw that she needed to do it. And so she did it because she was in the minority. She was not in the majority of the tribe. And so she said, you know what? You're right. I'll go ahead and do it. And I think that happened not once, but I think it happened twice. I think it happened with the Shawnee vote, and I think it happened with not Haley's vote, but the one before Haley. Who was before Haley?
It would have been Sean. Sean was before Haley.
Yeah. So I think it was those two. I could be wrong. I definitely know it was Shawnee because Nina literally went, I'll tell you later. I've got us. And she kept it close to her chest. She didn't tell anybody. And I'm pretty sure she wrote down Shawnee's name. And so I feel like being an open number like that is very important. And it didn't get her into the final four, but I do think it made it to the end. We all are also forgetting about the Jacuzzi Alliance.
I don't know if that was a good idea though. But why would she team up with George?
But why wouldn't you? Have already seen the work he's done.
Up with her, you know what I mean? Like I think she saw that Liz and George were not going to be broken up, right? She wanted to be in somewhere, and so she said, you know what? That's where I'm going to be. I'm going to be in with those two. And there would have been, if now Nina did talk a lot at the last tribal council, and George said that was the reason.
I forgot about that too. She talked herself out of the game again.
But she knew it. She knew it. Sometimes your mouth, as someone who talks a lot,
She did say,
your
I
mouth-
shouldn't have said it.
I shouldn't have said that. She literally said, I shouldn't have said that. And so she's self-aware enough. And so I just think that all of these things lined up, like what alliances other than the hero alliance did Sean have?
That was it.
That's pretty much it.
He had all the heroes and then the meat packing district or whatever it's called. And and that was really it. Whereas
the meat packing district.
Nina was in with David, was in with Liz. Like she had all of these other things where Sean was never a part of any of that. So I definitely think that that is why Nina is going to be higher up than Sean.
And then I have a tough time putting her above Simon as well.
You do.
I don't.
No, so you guys want Nina here.
Yeah,
So
Simon only survived because other players allowed Simon to survive, and he won challenges. Other than that, he couldn't get a footing on controlling anything, and he just wouldn't let go of the vendetta against George. Had he let that go and played it at a different time, he could have got Georged out, but he just kept going, and they just got him.
I mean, I would be okay with I would be okay with Nina being behind Simon. I think that Nina had a slightly better game than Simon personally. But I do think, I mean, I would be fine with it. It's
that kind of looks right.
I'm okay with that.
Everyone cool with that?
Yeah.
All right.
Now, hold up. Now
I'm
gonna
use strong at number 3.
I'm gonna use my golden. my golden thing.
You're gonna use it?
I am.
Oh.
I'm about to use mine.
Oh my God.
I was just about to ask if
gonna,
there's anything we should change, and now's your last chance to speak.
I'm gonna move Mimi up to wasn't your game.
I'm fine with that. I would say don't use your golden.
Yeah, don't use your idol.
I agree.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, cool.
Does anyone feel weird about having Michael where he is? Michael wasn't your game, but Stevie and Mimi are behind Michael. I feel weird having Stevie behind Michael.
I do too. I do agree with that.
Let's move it over. Okay.
And I also feel weird having Stevie behind Shawnee.
Okay, I'm fine with Stevie going up one more.
Are you cool with that, Abraham?
Yeah, that's good.
Michael, Mimi.
I think Michael is.
I'm just naming names now.
It's just the early boots is. I mean, she was another one that got ran over at tribal council because she was talking.
I think Michael was making the right move. It's just he didn't have enough ammunition. That's why I'm okay leaving him above Mimi.
Me too. I think Michael and Mimi are kind of close though. That's why I'm fine with Mimi going up one. I think they're kind of close.
Yeah, if Michael had more firepower and he had a different tribe, he was a villain. He really played like a villain. If the game
were just different in a completely other way, then I think.
Yeah, he played like a villain. He was villainous, but he just couldn't get momentum.
Are we okay moving David above Sean?
No, because Sean did outlast David, and David got.
But David, to Tegwyth's point, David had multiple alliances. Not only did he have the Heroes Alliance, but he had this very great plan with Liz and Nina and Sam at the time. Where Sean, once that Heroes Alliance was over, he was done.
You're right. I'm sorry, Sean. I talked you out of your little spot. Oh man.
Yeah, we can move him over.
Okay.
Does anyone take a quick look at it?
The only thing I just think is wild is that Benji and Jordy are Flick and Nina.
Pre-merge.
I'm not mad at it. I just think it's funny. We will hear about this. We will hear about that.
We're going to get a lot of hate for that, but
you
have to look at the game, especially Ben. Because people, especially casual fans, are going to be like, what did Ben do? Because Ben got a purple edit as well, in a sense. So people are going to be irate about that one.
Oh gosh, that's so funny.
Are we leaving Ben as the
I think we leave it. It's kind of good. Ben
is in the right spot. He's in the right spot.
All right. So we're going to, the jury is set or whatever. We are setting the order. No one can change. We all saved our golden idols, which they will carry over to our Rites of Passage. now. No, we're kind of turning this into a game now. This will
is,
carry
kind of.
on to our rites of
Okay.
passage for season 44. And there you go. The 5 best players who are not in this final 4 are Shawnee, Haley, Benjamin, Jordy, and Nina. Those are the 5 best players that are not in this final 4, with the two robbed queens in Haley and Shawnee. And then the person who is walking the plank this season. I don't know if I like that. I'm going to get something.
Trash.
Which is Rogue. We're going to think of an analogy, a Survivor
Trash.
analogy to say. But yes. Oh, the person who's cutthroat on that one game where it's like you get an answer right and then chopped. Whatever. We'll get something. Rogue is
chopped.
Well, yeah, the person who is chopped is Rogue, bottom of the season. So let's talk about, this is going to be like a 2.5-hour episode. It's going to be the longest episode of the season. Let's talk about this final 4, guys. We are left in no particular order with Maddie, Liz, Jerry, and George. And if you guys want to see us talk through each one of their games, go back and watch the Survivor AU Heroes versus Villains recap that we did. It was just Tegwyth and myself this week, back on, I think we recorded Tuesday night or no, Wednesday morning. Wednesday morning. So go back and check that out. And we go through all of their games. And we also kind of give our winner predictions during that episode. So let's see if we've changed our minds at all. We have to come to an agreement. And I do want this in an order, right? I want third place, fourth place, I want second, third, fourth, and then I want the winner. So we have to come to an agreement. This is an open discussion. There's no turns. Anyone can chime in. I'm obviously the loudmouth of the show, so I'm going to go first, even though I just said there's no turns. I have been torn all week. I am fairly convinced that George is going to finish third. And I think either Jerry or Liz are going to win the season, and whichever one doesn't win the season will finish third.
Wait, I thought you said George was going to finish third.
Or not third, sorry, fourth. Whoever, I'm Liz or Jerry, that's how I've looked at it. I've looked at Liz or Jerry are winning this season. We're either going to get like a Gabler situation with Jerry where everyone's just irate because he shouldn't have won, or Liz is going to be known as one of the most badass women to ever play the game. And everyone, I think either way, everyone's going to be pissed because I'm fairly convinced that George is finishing third place this season. And that's why I'm like, let me just play out this situation. I know we were supposed to open discussion, but now I've gone on my tangent. I'm fairly convinced that either Maddie or one of these 3 basically is going to be the next one voted out, right? I think it's Maddie or one of these 2. I think if Maddie doesn't win immunity, then it could be him. And then I think you're looking at a final 3. I'm just assuming there's a final 2. We still don't know if it's final 2, final 3. If it's final 3, George is going to win the game. But if it's final 2, like they think, if it's these 2 versus George, I think Maddie wins and he's taking Jerry to the finale. If it's Liz and Jerry and George, I think Liz wins and she's taking Jerry to the finale. And that's why I'm kind of like, I think it's one of these 2 winning. I don't know who yet. I think these 2 are going to be going at each other's throats when we get to that final 4. Whoever doesn't win immunity, I think could very well be going home. And that puts George, whoever beats George at the final immunity challenge is taking him out of the game. In my eyes, that's how I see the entire situation.
So we got 2 more immunity challenges.
In theory.
Okay.
Yeah, in theory, it could be a final 3. We don't know.
So we know the 2 that's going to have to battle out first. It's going to be Liz and Maddie. Those are the 2 that got to find it out, because if whoever wins immunity controls the game, because now you get to say, okay, who you going to vote out? Now they could say, hey, look, I'm going to vote 1. You vote George. I vote, and it's a tie vote. Now somebody might have to go to fire. I think Liz, if she wins, they vote out Matt. Matt comes in 4th. If anybody but Matt wins immunity, he's in 4th.
Let me just play this as we talk about it here.
Yeah, he's in 4th. And I think Liz is going to be like, I'm going to go for the gusto. And I'm going to go get I'm gonna go against George. I think she goes against George. I
And
think if you really, it's a
you think she
two-pronged thing.
beats George?
I think she beats George because I think here's the thing about it is if she goes to tribal and then looks at the jury and say, hey, you know what? I got here. I won immunity quite a few times. George never won community, and I was with him. But here's where I separated myself. Anybody else, she hands down, she beats him. Out of the remaining two of them, she beats him.
Abraham, I highly disagree just because look at who's on the jury. If it's Liz and George, Shawnee is voting Liz. Haley. I'll tell you everybody's vote. Shawnee's voting Liz. Haley's voting George. Nina's voting George. Simon's voting George. Flick is voting George. Sean is voting George. Sam is voting George. And I think that's it. I know I said a ton of George. I gave, and I think Tegwyth and I talked about this the other day. I gave one vote to Liz, and that's Shawnee.
Yeah.
Can you convince me out of those people that I just said that enough people are actually going to vote for Liz for her to beat George?
No.
Yeah.
But I'm giving you an alternate ending. Yes, I am. But the answer to your other question is no.
I think here's what I think happens. I think it all depends on who wins immunity in this next one. Not even the next immunity. So say it's the final two and there are two immunities, right? It's not who wins. I don't even think it matters who wins the second immunity. I think it matters who wins the first immunity. I think if Liz wins the first immunity, I think Maddie is going home. If Liz wins, I think it's Maddie. Now, if Maddie wins, I don't think it's Liz. I think if Maddie wins immunity, I think it's George. Because I think what's going to happen is I think Jerry, Maddie, and Liz are going to be like, you know, you have to make sure that Maddie wins. And are you willing to put that up? You know, all that stuff. And I kind of think that Liz will be able to convince Jerry and Maddie to vote out George. So I personally think Liz is going to win the next immunity. So I think Maddie's going to go out next. And then I think that leaves then, you know, Liz, Jerry, George. I think there's no way that, you know, I think then Liz also wins immunity again. And I think that George goes home and then it's Liz and Jerry and Liz ends up winning. But I think I said this in the other one. I think that Jerry gets some votes. I think Jerry will get maybe Matt's vote. I think Jerry will get George's vote. I think Jerry might even get Simon's vote. I think there are a couple people on the jury that will vote for Jerry. And I think that Liz wins by like 2 votes.
My argument. Go ahead.
Or George could win immunity.
No, I'm kidding. I mean, maybe he could.
If he wins immunity, guess what?
Let me just say, my argument to your statement, Tegwyth, is Maddie and Jerry's plan all along has been take George to the final 3, beat him at final immunity, which is probably going to be a stamina challenge, and then take each other to the finale. And I just don't know if they are going to steer away from that plan, which is why I think if Liz wins this immunity, this very next one, which you said is probably the most important one, if she wins this, I think Liz is winning. She's got the game on lockdown.
I want to say something. If
she doesn't, I think she's going home.
If you go back and look at George and he has not tried in any challenge. He is not given 100% of nothing that looks like effort. At best, he may be given 50%. So what if he can't actually win a challenge? If he wins a challenge, he wins it.
And you're playing devil's advocate here. George has been posting a lot on Twitter, still waiting on that puzzle challenge, waiting on the puzzle challenge. Hopefully there's a puzzle challenge. And someone did point out, what if this is all foreshadowing and a puzzle challenge is coming up in these final 2? Because George is very good at puzzles.
Yeah. And I think that that's a very good point. Like, I think that, you know, George, there is a world in which George wins immunity. And I think in that world, but here's the thing. I think that if we are out there on the island with George, I would not consider George a challenge threat. If I am Liz or if I am Matt or if I'm Jerry, I'm not going to be worried about if I go to final 3 with George, I'm not going to be worried that George is going to beat me in immunity because I feel like I'm going to be able to beat him. And so I think that's good gameplay on George's part, but like, I think that's why I think that Maddie will be the one to go if Liz wins next. But what does happen if George wins immunity?
If George
still think
wins
Maddie goes.
immunity,
I think Maddie still goes.
I think Liz goes because I think George looks at these final 3 people who are with him, and who is his biggest threat? Is it Maddie? No. Is it Jerry? Hell no. He literally said, "Of course, Maddie's my pawn." Like when he was hearing that, like he knows these 2 have no chance against him, but he knows that Liz is the only one remaining who has a chance at beating him in that final 3.
Yeah,
I'll go with that. That sounds like then Liz got to go next. And
but
Jerry's going to side with him.
I still feel like Liz is the winner, though. I really feel
I have to go with Tegwyth here. I
feel like we're talking about a lot of hypotheticals, and I think that, you know, a lot, like literally there are so many different iterations of this that can happen, but I really do feel like there is a small chance that George actually wins this season. And I would actually like to see a George win, or I would be okay with a George win, but I just don't think it happens.
So who's our runner-up?
It'd be Jerry. So we're saying Liz. I think Tegwyth and I are almost on the same page that Liz wins the next immunity. She convinces one of these 2, if not, or maybe it goes to fire because these 2 might stick. I don't know, but she gets Maddie out because he's the biggest challenge threat, which means these are your final 3. They compete in an immunity. They compete in a endurance challenge, and Liz wins that, and she takes out George there, taking Jerry to the finale. I will say that if it's a puzzle, we could be very wrong. I will say that Jerry has outlasted Liz several times this season in those endurance challenges. And if this is your final 3 and he outlasts Liz, he is 1,000% taking George, and George will win in the finale.
I don't think he's going to take George.
You're telling me he's going to pick Liz over George? At that point, his best friend Maddie's been out.
But at that point, he's not thinking, in my mind, I don't think, I mean, Jerry's a smart guy. He's not someone who's he came out on Survivor to win $500,000. Yes, he's loyal to George, and yes, all of that, but like he's in it to win $500,000. I really would hope that he would see that there's no way he's winning against George. The only way that he is winning is either against Liz or against Matt. Unless
but who's he sitting next to that's gonna vote for him? Yeah, they're not gonna. There's nobody he can sit next to that they're gonna outvote.
If Shawnee count these votes, if Shawnee sits next to Jerry,
Liz.
Shawnee votes for Liz.
Yep.
Haley probably votes for Liz.
Yep. George and Maddie vote for Jerry.
George and Maddie, yes, vote for Jerry. So that's 2-2 right now.
Nina
votes for Liz. Mm-hmm. Simon
Jerry
probably votes for Jerry.
No, he mad. Simon voting for Liz.
Simon votes for Jerry. Well, Simon did say he's a pawn. Did not say Liz.
He said. Yeah, he talked bad about Jerry, so he's not going to vote for him.
Yeah, I think Simon votes for Liz. I think Flick would vote for Jerry.
I would think that Flick would vote for Liz. Girl power.
Sean.
Jerry.
Yeah, Sean mad then.
Sam, and I think Sam, Jerry.
I keep forgetting Sam because you guys put him all the way down here. I mean, if this is your final 2, that's a very exciting tribal council.
I think it's. I think Liz got it.
Are we okay with it? I know Liz is our official winner pick because Tegwyth and I outrule Abraham 2-1. But just know it wasn't Abraham.
Abraham, out of curiosity, who do you think is the winner?
King George.
You think it's going to be George?
You think they let him get to the finale?
I think there's something that he's going to do that we haven't seen yet. I think that you don't get that far saying that you're a weak competitor and don't find a way to get there. And he's gotten there, but he knows he's going to have to overcome something. And I'm saying that he's going to win immunity, and that's going to be the key to it.
And the thing that I keep saying is like, there's no way they're making it this obvious. Like, but then I have to remind myself that they made it this obvious for Mark. Like, they did make it like there was last season where I was like, there's no way Mark wins. It's too obvious. And then, or there's no way that they let Mark make it to final 3. It's too obvious. And then Mark ends up making it to final 3 and obviously wins it. And so,
was it final 3? Was it final 3 for Blood versus War?
It was Shay and Chrissy and Mark.
But we don't know if it's going to be final 3, do we?
We don't. No. We don't know if it's final 3 or final 2.
Now, is final 3?
George wins.
George wins.
If it's final 3, you know what? We'll compromise. This would never happen, but we will put George second because that's who Abraham thinks. So this is how we're putting it. But our winner pick, the Survivor Now podcast as a whole, our winner pick is Liz.
And Liz, please win.
And I do think it's going to be Liz because it would be a masterful part by production, because let me remind you, when George ended up voting off Nina, that pissed Liz off. You saw it in her face, and production kept cutting back from Shawnee, looking at her, Shawnee, Liz, and I was in front of my TV going, oh, she's gonna kick your ass, because it was getting me so hype, and I am so excited.
She was pissed off when she voted out Shawnee, so.
Yeah, but she knew at that point in time that she had no ground in which to fight back. It was very obvious. It was a David versus Goliath situation. You vote out my number 2, but there are still like 8 other people in the game. So of course she couldn't do anything. But now there's only 4 people in the game, and she can do something. I think that she will.
I like to applaud all of them. I like to applaud everybody that made it down to the final 4 because everybody got a chance.
Yeah.
What'd you say the other day, Tegwyth? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. That was Liz. She got fooled. She forgave him for Shawnee, and he just fooled her again. And the way Shawnee was looking at Liz, it literally screamed, get his ass out. Plus, I think it could be foreshadowing because they literally showed Nina whispering to Liz, do not sit next to him. And I think this is setting up for Liz to be the winner of the season.
Yeah. And I really would be fine with pretty much any of these people winning. I think when we talked last, I was like, I don't know. I was just it was so wild to me that George was still in this game, and I couldn't even fathom anybody winning at all in this 4. And I think, you know what? I would be okay with a win from any of these people. Honestly, Maddie gave up his time to FaceTime his pregnant partner, I think his wife, girlfriend, whatever,
wife,
and gave it to Jordy. That I think was just showed like such a kind soul. I've been obsessed with Jerry from the start, so we know how I feel about Jerry. George played such an amazing game, and I really love Liz, and I've loved Liz and Shawnee, and you call it they were going to be great friends from the beginning, Randy. So I would be really happy with any of these 4 people winning. Now that I've had time to process that Shawnee's not in it still.
Yeah. Robbed Queen. Well, thank you guys for, sitting in with us for all this time. Hope you made it to the end because this was fun. Let me just remind you, we all have our golden idols that are going to carry over. We're going to do this again for season 44. We are bringing back a tradition, the Rites of Passage. We got some news to share for you guys, though, before we finally tune out here. And that is, make sure to catch all of our Survivor AU coverage before finale week gets started. We have had the pleasure to interview all but like 3 or 4 of the castaways. Make sure to go back and listen to their games. It's very insightful. Also, I've had Tegwyth and Abraham pretty much all season with a few special guests here and there to cover every week of Survivor AU except for one. That was my fault. But yeah, so make sure to go check all that out. Tegwyth, before I get into the rest of the closing stuff, what's going on over there on Survivor Social? You just had an episode come out yesterday.
Yes, it was awesome. For anyone who wants to hear it, me and David we had such a special guest. Omer came on and we talked about the latest episode of Survivor. We got really in depth and we got Omer's ideas, and obviously me and David are always talking about what we think shouldn't, what's going on here and there. So having Omer on was such a blast. He is so incredibly smart. I don't think I've ever met anybody more knowledgeable about the game. He is just so in it, and it was just such a pleasure. So please go check it out. It was such a fun time talking to him.
It was incredible episode. I watched it this morning as soon as I woke up. And it was so fun. Like, he is so knowledgeable at the game. There were some awesome questions where they kind of look back at older seasons, and it was a great episode. Abraham, also, they should also check out, we had a special guest on Wednesday's show as well.
Well, we had the winner of season 43. Gabler was a part of our review for was episode number 4 of this current season. He did a lot of good stuff. He's doing a lot of good stuff for veterans and his winnings. So it's good to see a different display of how people pay it forward. So we got an opportunity to see that right there. I have looked at you, Tegwyth, and y'all with David on your show, and Omar gave some very good tips on doing your videos.
He did. I forgot about that.
Yeah, when you do your videos for applying for Survivor, show that energy, show who you are, and he's a great guy. I met him in person a few times. He's just as funny and animated in person as he is. He was in your show, so it was good to meet him. And he does what is he? A veterinarian.
An
which
exotic
is funny.
It was so interesting just hearing him talk about animals and stuff, and the way that he was talking about how he brought his, well, I won't spoil it, but how his job impacted the way he was going to approach Survivor. Very interesting.
Well, he was even more funny in the bird cage in Florida when we went down to the charity, and I was like, a lot about birds. It was funny.
Of course he does. Well, make sure to check out all that content. In terms of Survivor Australia, Heroes versus Villains, it is finale week. We are coming to an end. I am so sad, as all of you know, Survivor Australia, or Australian Survivor, however you want to say it, has become my favorite Survivor, bar none. It doesn't even compare. So I am heartbroken to know that we won't get another season until next January. It tears me up. But in terms of the schedule, we will have an exit interview for you guys next Monday night. We will be interviewing the winner of Survivor Australia. Tegwyth, are you working Monday night?
I'm not closing Monday night, no.
Are you going to be home by 7:20?
I can find a place.
I was going to say, I want you there for that interview. So I want all 3 of us there for the winner interview. It should be fun. So we will be interviewing the winner 7:20 on Monday. Well, it won't be released on 7:20, but you guys get it. We'll be interviewing them at 7:20. It'll be released later that night. There is no word currently on whether we will interview the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place finishers, or when that would be scheduled. It's much like Survivor South Africa. We got to interview Dino, the winner. Spoiler, sorry about it. But we never got to interview the 2nd and 3rd place finishers. So it's a little bit sad, but they're focusing on the winner. So I get it. And the winner definitely has a lot of interviews that has to take precedence there. So yeah, that's coming up. We will have multiple recaps for you next week. Chris, a huge fan of the show. He's been a fan since like the get-go. We're finally going to get him on here to talk about Survivor Australia with us.
Chris.
And then Abraham, we have another special guest next week as well.
I will be out next week. I'll be at Lauren's watch party on Wednesday in Houston.
But who do you have for the Survivor Australia recap?
The name evades me. I know he's,
Oh wow!
It's from. She's from Canada, and
actress.
There's an actress from Canada.
While he's finding that, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure to follow and give us a rating. We really do appreciate it. I can't even talk now. We've been here forever.
It's Chantel, but with an extra E in it. Francis. So she's from Canada. She covers with Rob Has a Podcast. She covers Survivor as well. Reached out to her. She said, "Oh yeah, she's currently in Panama enjoying vacation, but she'll be back next week."
Ooh, so she'll be here to break down the finale with us as well. But we'll have that schedule a little bit more figured out once we get to that next week. But yeah, that is it. Is there anything else anyone wants to say? Tegwyth, you look like you're dying to say something.
Yes, I just want to say, if anybody is going to be going to Rob Has a Podcast live show in North Carolina on Wednesday, yours truly will be going for my we're going to go. Ryan, my boyfriend's birthday's the other couple weeks ago. So for his birthday,
Ryan. Is he there? Happy birthday, Ryan.
He's in another room. But for his birthday, I got him a flight and we're gonna go down to North Carolina. So if anybody is there, if any listeners are going to be at that, please come up and say hello. I would love to talk Australian Survivor with you, any kind of Survivor at all. It's gonna be such a fun night. Rob Has a Podcast live shows are always so fun.
Is it in Charlotte or where's it at in North Carolina?
Raleigh.
Okay.
And Abraham, you kind of mentioned it already, but they can catch you at a watch party this week.
I'll be at a watch party in Houston with Lauren, season 44. And next in the end of March, I'll be in Houston. The beginning of April, I'll be in Atlanta with Josh at a watch party. And then at the end of April, I will be in San Antonio, Texas with Queen Sandra.
I met her the other day. Lovely soul.
At our watch party.
That's awesome.
Literally my prized possession now.
That is so cool.
I'm getting it framed and all. She said she's a huge fan of the show, which I almost passed out. I will say, should I drop these details? Should I do this? The live finale show for Survivor 44. I know at this point they're like, why are we talking about this on Survivor Australia? It's only for you diehard fans who actually watch Survivor Australia.
Only 3 people who are still listening to this.
That's very fair.
Thank
which
you.
is like 3 hours in. I'm gonna love editing this. No. So if you want to meet all of the Survivor Now crew, I believe we're all gonna be in New York for the finale of
May?
season 44, the end of May. So I'm just putting that out there. I was gonna post it on Instagram tomorrow, but I believe we're all going to be there. And when I say all, except for Will, unfortunately.
Will, because Will's like 18, 17.
Abraham, me, Tegwyth, Josh, the entire Survivor Now crew. So make sure to stop by and say hello for us. I'm thinking about bringing something.
That's a 2-day event. That's not a 1-day event.
Tegwyth, are you going to both events?
I'm gonna try.
Well, I can't promise we'll be at both events. I know I will. I know Abraham will. I don't know about Josh, but in terms of the finale watch party, we will all be there. I'm kind of looking at it like a company outing. It's like our one time of year that we all get together and we all meet up and we all have drinks and celebrate Survivor is when they go to New York City. I want to go back. I went last year and it's insane. So
subscribe to the channel so my company can start paying us. Subscribe to the channel.
Yes. Seriously, subscribe. We just hit 500 subscribers on YouTube, so thank you so much. We are halfway to 1,000, where we can start adding ads to YouTube. Yay! So,
nice.
All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and it's going to be an exciting finale week. Stay tuned. Make sure to hit that notification bell, and we will see you guys next week.